Chapter 1260. These great emperors were extremely well informed. They actually received the news one after another, and most of them even took the initiative to ask for help from Dongbua Shuang. What a joke. Hearing the words thousand-eyed water droplet, most of their eyes turned red. In terms of strength, even though Great Emperor North River was slightly stronger, they were at the same level. It's just that Great Emperor North River had 36 god generals under him. That was why he was the strongest. But as long as Monarch Feishuer appeared, the 36 god generals would have taken the initiative to escape. None of them would come and fight. As for Great Emperor North River, with Monarch Feishuer working together, any one of them could easily trample on Great Emperor North River. Dongbua Shuang felt puzzled inwardly. This news was too well informed. Was it Supreme Sure Fa from the Death Destruction clan who spread the news? No matter what, he couldn't swallow this resentment. All right, Brother Shamanic Wind, Great Emperor Xian Tu, Brother Dong Yuan, I'll have to trouble the three of you. Dongbua Shuang transmitted to the three great emperors. He had attended several banquets hosted by several great emperors, and amongst them, he had the best relationship with Shamanic Wind and the other two. Hence, he invited the three of them to act together. And there were a total of 5 who took the initiative to ask for help. From this point, one could see how bad the relationship between Great Emperor North River and the other great emperors was. No other choice. He was unscrupulous in his actions. For the sake of obtaining the territory that Great Emperor Glorious Earth originally ruled over, he had devised a wager and ultimately succeeded in obtaining that territory. Great Emperor North River treated the other great emperors who were subordinates of Supreme Vast Ancient in such a manner. Great Emperor North River would naturally not show any mercy to the other great emperors under another native Supreme Thunder Firmament. This person was too ruthless. In the past, Dongbua Shuang only agreed to help him because he wanted to prevent a calamity from happening in the Starlight World and many other worlds. In addition, Great Emperor North River knew how to conduct himself and treated others politely. It's just that he was ruthless when he turned hostile. Within the void of Broken Tooth Mountain Range, a white-robed young man, Dongbua Shuang, a violet-robed absolute beauty, Great Emperor Shamanic Wind who had a blade by his waist, and a cold middle-aged male. The 4 of them gathered in midair. Brother Feishuer, you truly trusted that North River too much. Great Emperor Shamanic Wind said, you suffered a loss this time. Let's not talk about these. Brother Flying Snow, North River should have acted against you just now, right? The violet-robed beauty, Great Emperor Xian Tu said, yes, it was just a while ago. I was still thinking about how well-informed everyone is. Dongbua Shuang said, the news was released by Supreme Sure Fa. The thousand-eyed water droplet was on his sky-levitating island. In the end, Autarch Sure Fa didn't obtain it. How could he let North River be happy? North River is unscrupulous in his actions. We should teach him a lesson. There's no time to lose. We should head to the North River world immediately. All right, let's go. Dongbua Shuang nodded his head. Who? The 4 of them tore through the void and used the great world-breaching teleportation technique to arrive at the interior of the North River world. Rumble. Above the North River God Palace, Dongbua Shuang and the other 3 appeared. They looked down at the chain of palaces. Who dares to offend my North River Palace? Daring to kill their way into the North River God Palace through the great world-breaching teleportation technique was akin to slapping the face of Great Emperor North River. At that moment, many figures rushed out from within the palace. Many were furious. They were the subordinates of Great Emperor North River. Currently, Great Emperor North River had a good relationship with Monarch Feishuer, who dared to be so unbridled and kill their way here. Looking up, some of the leading god generals and other protectors were stunned. Of the 4 in the sky, 1 was Monarch Feishuer, and the other 3 were great emperors. How is it? Great Emperor Xian Tu asked. I can't find him. I can't find him in the entire North River world. He should not have returned. Great Emperor Shamanic Wind said. Nope. Dongbua Shuang shook his head too. Even though his domain could not cover the entire North River world, he could still cover more than half of it. Similarly, he could not find any traces of Great Emperor North River. Great Emperor Dongming looked downwards. He even sneered. North River sought help from Monarch Feishu, yet he turned hostile and killed the avatar of Monarch Feishu just to snatch his treasures. Currently, he doesn't even dare to return to the North River world, yet you people are still working for him? What a joke. Saying that, Great Emperor Dongming waved his hand. Selah. A pitch-black crack tore through the ground, causing the entire North River Palace to be torn apart. These god generals and protectors were terrified. It was fine if 3 great emperors worked together, but there was also Monarch Feishu working together. The god generals, were completely slaughtered. Go! Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and the other 3 immediately teleported away. And now, the North River Palace was in ruins. The remaining god generals were looking at each other. Ask Big Brother and Do. Ask God General Skeletal Dragon. These god generals immediately transmitted their questions. God General and Do and the other 9 god generals had followed Great Emperor North River to Fa Island. Very soon. Let's go. Let's all go. Don't care about the North River world anymore. Great Emperor turned hostile and killed the avatar of Monarch Feishu before snatching away the 1,000-eyed water droplet. Now, even other great emperors are envious of it. Even supremes would want it. Monarch Feishu will definitely not let this matter rest. Since Great Emperor has the 1,000-eyed water droplet, why would he care about us? Let's return to our own worlds. It's better for us not to participate in the battle between great emperors. With Monarch Feishu around, it's better for us god generals not to participate. If we were to die, it would be too late for regrets. The 10 god generals replied one after another. This caused some of the god generals within the broken North River Palace to feel dumbfounded. Their leader, Great Emperor North River, had obtained a huge benefit and enjoyed it alone. He did not care about them. Let's go. What are we doing here? Go, go, go. The god generals left one after another. Those weaker protectors also returned to their hometown. Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and the other 3 were frantically searching for Great Emperor North River within the Broken Tooth Mountain Range. But it's a pity that they could not find him. And now, Great Emperor North River was not foolish. Naturally, he would not appear. Amen? At a certain location in the void, Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and the other 3 were here. Great Emperor Dongming frowned. He said, I've received news that Supreme Vast Ancient has sent his subordinates to monitor the Snake Tooth Corridor. He discovered that Great Emperor North River has entered the Snake Tooth Corridor not long ago. The Snake Tooth Corridor was a legendary forbidden ground. Only the 5 Supremes were qualified to send their subordinates to monitor the place. Other great emperors would be killed even if they sent their subordinates over. Not long ago, Great Emperor Xiantu frowned. In that case, he should have entered the Snake Tooth Corridor without hesitation after obtaining the 1,000-eyed water droplet. Although I really don't like this North River, his methods are truly ruthless and decisive. Great Emperor Shamanic Wind nodded. He should have left Fa Island and released the 10 god generals under him before heading to the Snake Tooth Corridor. Let's go and have a look. Dongbua Shuang said. Go, let's go to the Snake Tooth Corridor. Great Emperor Xiantu nodded. So. The 4 of them tore through the void and departed. Ordinary experts would be killed if they dared to enter, but it was different for great emperors. Even supremes had a hard time killing them. Naturally, nobody would obstruct the great emperors from personally viewing the Snake Tooth Corridor. Ooh, they tore through the void. When the scene in front of him became clear, Shuang saw an incomparably towering serpent head in the distance. This serpent head seemed to be carved out of rock and was incomparably huge. It was much bigger than any of the sky-floating islands. The snake head opened its bloody mouth and revealed its fangs. Its mouth was deep and unfathomable. This open mouth of the snake produced a terrifying black maelstrom that was frenziedly devouring the surrounding energy. The region covered by this black maelstrom was roughly the size of the southern cloud nation from what Dongbua Shui Ying saw. This terrifying black maelstrom formed a passage that led straight into the depths of the snakehead's mouth. This black maelstrom passage was none other than the Snake Tooth Corridor. According to rumors, one could see many snake teeth on both sides of the corridor when one entered. So terrifying. Dongbot Shui Ying could feel the terrifying tearing and destructive power coming from the black maelstrom just by looking at it from afar. According to legends, if Supremes tried to force their way in, they would be torn into pieces by the black maelstrom. Chapter 1261. Today was the 5th night. Amen. It's the 3 great emperors. That is Monarch Feishue. Those who have been monitoring the surroundings for a long period noticed the 3 great emperors and Dongbot Shuang. Hence, they did not come over to stop them. After all, everyone knew that a great emperor working together with Monarch Feishue could fight against Supremes. Its power is terrifying, right? Great Emperor Shamanic Wind looked at that majestic and incomparably huge dark maelstrom and that savage snake head. He sighed, "I've heard that this snake head is the head of one of the 2 chaotic origin life forms that have fallen. Even after it died, the maelstrom it formed would never dissipate. It is no different from sending us to our deaths if we were to force our way in." Dongbot Shuang nodded. He looked at that towering snake head that seemed like it was carved from stone. The snake head was comparable to the dark maelstrom and the size of a nation in the Southern Cloud Nation. How big would the entire snake be if it existed? This size was unfathomably huge. It was indeed an innate chaotic origin life form, and one of the best. Emperor Deepstone and Myriad Tentacles Dragon Son were simply ants in front of a huge dragon when compared to them. North River has already escaped into the Snake Tooth Corridor. We can't chase after him at all. It is fortunate that he escaped fast. Many thanks to the 3 great emperors. Since North River has entered the Snake Tooth Corridor, let's temporarily forget about this matter. Dongbot Shui Ying bade farewell to the 3 great emperors and left by himself. This matter involved the thousand-eyed water droplet. That was a supreme treasure that could be relied on to enter the Snake Tooth Corridor. Furthermore, this matter involved one of the 5 great Supremes, Supreme Sure Fa, Great Emperor North River, and that cultivator from Realm Heart Great Land, Monarch Feishue. Hence, this news spread very quickly across the apex experts in Broken Tooth Mountain Range. They were all discussing about this matter. They envied that Great Emperor North River and felt that this Monarch Feishue was quite pitiful. He helped Great Emperor North River and could fight against Supreme Sure Fa. But other than his soul technique, his personal strength is too weak. He could not resist at all when facing Great Emperor North River and was easily killed. In the end, he's just a cultivator, and cultivators are already extremely weak. I'm not strong enough. Naturally, I can't keep the thousand-eyed water droplet. The thousand-eyed water droplet is a treasure of my Broken Teeth Mountain Range. How could cultivators from Realm Heart Great Land be qualified to own it? Even though the apex experts in Broken Tooth Mountain Range were relatively respectful towards Monarch Feishue, there were still some who looked down on cultivators from Realm Heart Great Land. They had always been unconvinced by the fame of Monarch Feishue. This time, Imperial Emperor Feishue suffered a great loss, so he naturally felt delighted. The transmission of news between the Realm Heart Great Land and Broken Teeth Mountain Range was slow, but 5 years after the incident happened, it gradually spread to the Realm Heart Great Land. In a cold and gloomy hall, there were pillars with strange diagrams on them, and on each pillar was a powerful, vengeful spirit. Phew! A consciousness descended. The power of heaven and earth condensed into a handsome man wearing a cloak. It was the incarnation of Eternal Night Primogenitor. When the incarnation of Eternal Night Primogenitor descended, it immediately alarmed the vengeful spirits on the pillars by the side. Some of these vengeful spirits struggled and roared at Eternal Night Primogenitor. Some opened their eyes and glanced at Eternal Night Primogenitor before going back to sleep. Some stared coldly at Eternal Night Primogenitor. Each pillar contained an ultra-strong, vengeful spirit, and a total of 12 vengeful spirits. I wonder what Undying Underworld Emperor is doing. Eternal Night Primogenitor muttered inwardly. Eternal Night, you are here. Seated on his throne, The luxurious golden-robed, undying underworld emperor who had a crown on his head opened his eyes. He looked down at Eternal Night Primogenitor. "Why are you here instead of helping me?" Eternal Night Primogenitor answered, "Underworld Emperor, you can't blame me for this. You should know how famous that Angshan Snow Eagle is now. He has such a huge influence in Broken Teeth Mountain Range. Many treasures and opportunities were sent to him by those experts in Broken Teeth Mountain Range, and it is possible for him to reach the final realm in the future. The moment he reached the final realm, he might just become the strongest expert in Realm Heart Great Land. I still want to live. Fortunately, I've asked Extreme Knight for help, agreeing to many promises, and that Monarch Feishue agreed to form a grudge between us. He is merely afraid of death." Even though Undying Underworld Emperor understood, he still sneered. "I have no choice." Eternal Night Primogenitor shook his head. He felt humiliated too, but he was also worried that he would be pursued by Dongbua Shui Ying in the future. He did not even dare to personally intercede with the other party because they had a grudge. He asked Extreme Knight Primogenitor for help, and Dongbua Shui Ying agreed to the conditions. Just a year after the matter regarding the thousand-eyed water droplet happened, Eternal Night Primogenitor went to meet Dongbua Shui Ying alone. He made amends and swore an oath before Dongbua Shui Ying. Cultivators cared a lot about oaths. Actually, these great devils like Undying Underworld Emperor, Eternal Night Primogenitor, Moonflower King, and other Final Realm devils were not given a path of survival by Dongbua Shui Ying. As long as they agreed to the conditions and swore an oath, Dongbua Shui Ying would promise not to pursue them. The reason why Dongbua Shui Ying did this was because he could not kill those Final Realm devils currently. If he did not give them a path of survival, these Final Realm devils would simply go crazy and create a huge disaster. Most of them had obediently come and swore an oath. Only like Undying Underworld Emperor, who wanted to become a chaotic origin life form wholeheartedly. It was impossible for him to achieve it by relying on his own cultivation. His confidence had long disappeared. He only wanted to enter the Snake Tooth Corridor. That was why he fell out with Dongbua Shui Ying. Currently, he was frantically collecting a large number of souls. Many beings had died because of him. To this, Dongbua Shui Ying could not stop him at all. Didn't he, Ying, Shan Snow Eagle, suffer a huge loss in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range? Undying Underworld Emperor sneered. He was actually fortunate enough to obtain the thousand-eyed water droplet. Nonetheless, he wasn't strong enough, and the treasure was snatched away by others. Great Emperor North River treated him incomparably politely in the past. Yet didn't he fall out with him? Humph. During ordinary times, the experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range would still give him some face. But this matter involves a huge opportunity to become a chaotic origin life form. What is he, Shan Snow Eagle? Right? Those experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range merely feel that he has some value. Eternal Night Primogenitor nodded. After all, we cultivators are ultimately much weaker than the experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range. Yuan had set a rule that prevented the apex experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range from entering the Realm Heart Great Land. The apex cultivators in the Realm Heart Great Land. Some were forced by Dongbua Shui Ying to take the initiative to apologize and admit defeat. Some were envious and jealous. After hearing about what happened in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range, many sneered inwardly. Look at how arrogant he is. Everyone said that he would become the #1 expert in the Realm Heart Great Land in the future. But now, didn't those experts in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range fall out with him? He is ultimately too weak. Everyone said that it is possible for him to reach the final realm. But who knows how long he might be stuck there for? Various parties were discussing. What they said was logical too. It was indeed difficult to reach the final realm because of the chaotic origin weapon and because of the supreme secret importation that Monarch Feishue had, in addition to the many opportunities in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range. Many felt that it was possible for him to reach the final realm. But no matter how big the hope was, it was just hope. As long as he did not break through, it was unknown how long he would be stuck at the bottleneck. The outside world was in an uproar. Within Feishue City, Dongbua Shui Ying was still living his life leisurely. What did he say about becoming the #1 expert in the realm Heart Great Land in the future? What did he say about being stuck at the bottleneck for a long time? What did he say about being easily bullied in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range? Snow Eagle, is the matter regarding the thousand-eyed water droplet true? Southern Cloud King personally came to ask. Teacher, have a seat. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled when he saw his teacher coming. I am asking you about something. After Southern Cloud King sat down, he immediately poured himself a cup of wine. After drinking it, he stared at Dongbua Shui Ying. It's true. That is normal too. Other than soul techniques, in terms of direct combat strength, how could I be considered in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range? Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled. AI, what a pity. The opportunity to enter the legendary forbidden ground of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range is right in front of you, yet you have missed it. Southern Cloud King said. Previously, he did not know what the Snake Tooth Corridor was. It was only after the news spread that he inquired about it. Only then did he understand how unique and mysterious the Snake Tooth Corridor was. Even the 5 great supremes of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range wanted to enter that place. There's nothing pitiful about it. I have never thought that I could monopolize that thousand-eyed water droplet. Dongbua Shui Ying said. He had always been calm. He did not have any extravagant hopes. It's just that I have misjudged Great Emperor North River. I have already made many promises and oaths. I even promised to have an avatar follow by his side, yet he was still worried. He would rather offend me just to snatch the thousand-eyed water droplet away. Southern Cloud King nodded when he heard that. Amen, it's a pity. If only Snow Eagle were strong enough to fight against experts at the level of Emperor Summer, coupled with your illusory realm techniques, you wouldn't have to fear him anymore. Dongbua Shui Ying chuckled. Ultimately, he was weaker than others. There was nothing much to say. The matter regarding the thousand-eyed water droplet had spread across the Broken Tooth Mountain Range and Realm Heart Great Land. Dongbua Shui Ying had been cultivating in a low-profile manner. On this day, Face U.S. City, Monarch Residence. Dongbua Shui Ying sat under a pavilion watching the fishes swimming in the lake. Suddenly, he thought of a scene he once saw. That was the scene of a terrifying chaotic origin life form flying through the endless primal chaos space. Every single move of this chaotic origin life form is filled with unfathomable power. Dongbua Shui Ying had an amazing memory. He could clearly remember everything. It was fine if he saw other profound mysteries on the body of that chaotic origin life form as it flew, but the Tao of Void was what he specialized in. At this moment, he could not help but recall that scene and ponder over the profound mysteries of the Tao of Void contained in that chaotic origin life form's movement, flying and swimming. With a single tremble, it could easily fly across an origin world. Its control over the Tao of Void had reached a stage that startled Dongbua Shui Ying. Too perfect. Dongbua Shui Ying could not see any flaws in this flying and swimming life form. Everything was as one. He admired this beauty. He admired how extraordinary that enormous chaotic origin life form was when it flew and swam. Heaven phase and earth phase are as one. Yet the thread phase is so beautiful. Violent phase can be so crazy too. Dongbua Shui Ying admired it. Gradually, a light of inspiration flashed through his mind. His avatar had been in closed-door cultivation in the Seven Bell Pagoda, comprehending the Tao of Void. He had reaped many benefits, and he had always wanted to create the 6th killing technique for the Tao of Void. And now, at this moment, inspiration flashed. The many insights he gained in the past were like beads that were strung together by a thread. Heaven phase, earth phase, void phase, violent phase, and origin phase are intertwined with each other, using the empty phase to contain, using the thread phase to form a connection. In the mind of Dongbua Shui Ying appeared the swaying tail of that enormous chaotic origin life form. A single swing would produce many thread phases. Different thread phases fused perfectly with one another. 3 thread phases will suffice. 3 thread phases fuse with one another, using the Tao of pluralism to fuse them together, working together, returning to the great nirvana. Dong Ying revealed a look of excitement. He had always wanted to fuse all 9 branches together. He had even accumulated his insights to an incomparably thick stage. He was just lacking a final spark. At this moment, he finally had an epiphany. From admiring the scene of that terrifying, chaotic origin life form swimming, he gained a spark that rapidly fused with many other insights. Chapter 1262. Today was the 6th chapter. His hometown, origin world, primal chaos void. A small boat was flying in the void. Ying was currently seated cross-legged at the bow of the boat. Currently, his cultivation had reached a crucial moment. Not just the avatars in Realm Heart Great Land or his hometown, even the avatars under the Burning Heart God Tree had temporarily stopped comprehending the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm. All avatars were fully focused on researching the Tao of Void. Heaven, Earth, Void, Origin, and Violet. The 5 phases are intertwined. The empty phase contains them. The thread phase connects them. Ying sat cross-legged at the bow of the boat. He lightly waved his right hand. Sila. A black crack abruptly tore apart the world. It tore apart the primal chaos void. It also tore apart the membrane of this origin world. Outside this black crack was the surging chaotic origin energy. This crack was approximately 5 kilometers long and was as thick as a finger. Sila, Sila, Sila. Every time he waved his hand or swiped his finger, a crack would appear in the origin world. As Ying was experimenting with his techniques, his avatars in the Realm Heart Great Land's 7-bell pagoda were doing their best to deduce and cultivate. Within the 7-bell pagoda, the efficiency of cultivation was incredibly high. Every time he perfected a technique, Ying would experiment again and again. Sila, Sila. The sound of tearing apart the membrane of the origin world made one's heart tremble. Gradually, this sound became weaker and weaker. The crack that was torn became even more inconspicuous. 10 days later. It was a very soft sound, as if he was breathing. He lightly waved his palm, causing a continuous crack to appear in the world. This crack was very long, about 150 kilometers long. It was so thin that it was hard to discern with the naked eye. The trajectory of the crack was even slightly rhythmic. It was not a simple straight line or curve. It's about time. It is sufficient to control it to this stage. Next, it is time for the 3 thread phases to fuse with each other, using the multiverse to fuse into one and return to nirvana. Ying pondered. The Tao of Void had a total of 9 branches. Heaven, Earth, Void, Origin, Violent Thread, Void, Multiverse, and Nirvana. The intertwining of thread, fuse with multiverse, and return to Nirvana. Ying muttered. He waved his right hand again, but this time, each of his fingers was moving gently. 3 cracks that tore apart the membrane of the source world appeared one after another. After the 3 cracks appeared, they quickly converged and blasted open a pitch-black hole with a diameter of more than 10 meters. No, it's too stupid. He waved his hand again. He tested each move. The memories of the many doppelgangers were interlinked, and their comprehensions were constantly fused. Some ideas were quickly eliminated after being verified, while the correct ones were absorbed. He was getting closer and closer to the grand completion scene in his imagination. Because Ying owned a chaotic origin weapon and a top-graded secret treasure, he had experienced the final realm Tao of Void. He was constantly approaching the final realm of the Tao of Void. It's the combination of the 5 threads. After experimenting for half a year, only then did Ying discover his mistake. The 6th killing technique he created was derived from referencing the flying and swimming movements of that terrifying chaotic origin life form. But as Ying experimented over and over again, there would always be some gaps. Ying carefully recalled the scene of that terrifying chaotic origin life form, flying and swimming in the past. Only then did he confirm it. It was indeed the combination of the 5 lines. The swimming of its tail was indeed 3 lines, but its enormous body was already a line, and the surrounding surging chaotic origin energy perfectly fused with its swimming body. It was also a line. That was the 5 lines. 5 lines as one. 1 is the guide, 1 is the power, and 3 as the foundation. Multitudes as one. Return to nirvana. Dongbua Shui-ing sat cross-legged at the bow of the boat. At this moment, he was testing out his techniques time after time. Every time he tried, the power of his techniques would become more violent. It even alarmed Sword Master and Old Monster Stone to come and take a look. The two of them watched from afar, before leaving with a smile. It was normal for Dongbua Shui-ing to have such a commotion while cultivating. Even with the embryonic form and the help of the 7-bell pagoda, Dongbua Shui-ing had spent 20,000 years before succeeding. He encountered too many problems. For instance, fusing the 5 lines as one. Every line had a myriad of variations that complemented and intersected with one another. On a day after cultivating for 20,000 years at the bow of the boat, Dongbua Shui-ing's eyes suddenly brightened. He punched out with his fist. The surrounding void abruptly turned silent. Everything shattered, shattering the membrane wall of the origin world. A terrifying ripple directly blasted into the vast chaotic origin dimension. This fist was like the flight of an enormous chaotic origin life form. It was grand and unstoppable, tyrannical, powerful. Dongbua Shui-ing's Tao of Void fused 9 branches into one. Eventually, it reached nirvana as the final extremity. Everything returned to the great nirvana. I've succeeded in my 6th killing technique. I've also succeeded in reaching the final realm. Dongbua Shui-ing felt his heart beating faster. There was a grin on his face. The 6th killing technique was the perfect fusion of 9 branches. He had finally comprehended the complete Tao of Void. Final realm. I've finally reached the final realm. Final realm in the Tao of Void. Ha ha, ha ha. Shui-ing could not help but laugh out loud. He laughed out loud. It had been too long. Ever since he knew that his hometown was approaching the great apocalypse, he had felt an unseen burden pressing down on his body. He could not accept the great apocalypse happening to his hometown. His loved ones had died one by one, leaving him alone to survive the great apocalypse. This kind of loneliness would drive him crazy. He did not dare to relax at all times. He had reached a bottleneck after fusing 8 branches. He had no other choice. He could only try his best to create a technique that he felt was perfect. He constantly pursued perfection. The 1st killing technique, the 2nd killing technique, the 3rd killing technique. He created one after another. Every single technique allowed him to accumulate more and more experience. Finally, he had accumulated a lot of experience, and success came naturally. Under the profound mysteries contained in the flying posture of that chaotic origin life form, with a flash of inspiration, he created his 6th killing technique. This was also a technique that fused 9 branches together. The feeling of reaching the final realm in the Tao of Void is truly different. Dongbua Shui-ing chuckled. He stood at the head of the ship. With a thought, he traced along the spatial particles in the origin world, enveloping the entire origin world. He saw many places: Sword Master, Old Monster Stone, Forefather Tian Yu, Blade Emperor, his wife Jing Xiao, his children Dongbua Yu, Dongbua Qin Yao. He saw many people, yet they could not sense it. After all, this was through the essence of the void black fog spherical particles. Someone sensed it. Oh, within an ordinary cosmos, Lord Lo Cheng had transformed into a blacksmith. He was currently focused on forging a blade. Suddenly, he sensed something and looked up. His gaze pierced through the distance and landed on Dongbua Shui-ing with a grin. At the same time, he said, "Dongbua Shui-ing, congratulations on reaching the final realm in the Tao of Void before the great apocalypse, allowing you to save those you care about." By now, Dongbua Shui-ing knew the identity of this Lord Lo Cheng. There were legends about Lord Lo Cheng in the Broken Teeth Mountain Range. This was a newly risen, chaotic origin life form. He broke through with his strength, and became a chaotic origin life form. Furthermore, it was rumored that he was a terrifying peak-level chaotic origin life form. His strength was not any weaker than Yuan. If one had to describe him, the two terrifying chaotic origin life forms that fell in the Broken Teeth mountain range were not as strong as this Lord Lo Cheng. This was the difference between cultivators and innate chaotic origin life forms. No matter how strong innate chaotic origin life forms were, their control of energy was much weaker. Only cultivators could truly cultivate step by step. Their control of the laws and profound mysteries was too exquisite. Even if Lord Lo Cheng was comparable in strength to those terrifying chaotic origin life forms, his survival capabilities would likely be 10 to 100 times stronger. Just like Emperor Summer from the Realm Heart Great Land and those world masters from the Broken Teeth mountain range, they were all initial emperors. But against great emperors, world masters could not resist at all. Yet Emperor Summer could escape with his life. He could even fight against several world masters in direct combat. His survival capabilities were much stronger. If not for Lord Lo Cheng's World Flower, I don't know how long I would have to wait. Dongbua Shuang added, opportunities can be given by others, but strength has to be grasped by oneself. Lord Lo Cheng chuckled, properly cultivate. If you could reach the final realm in your Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm, I might be able to admire you. Reaching the final realm in the Tao of Void, Lord Lo Cheng was a chaotic origin life form that overlooked the countless origin worlds and stood at the apex. He did not care about it. Instead, it was the Tao of Soul. Until now, none had reached the final realm. If Dongbua Shuang succeeded, Lord Lo Cheng would naturally admire him. Any chaotic origin expert would admire him. I'll definitely work hard. Dongbua Shuang did not feel any pressure. Without the pressure from the Great Apocalypse, he had sufficient time to cultivate. But he was clear that reaching the final realm in the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm was not easy, even though he could see the path. One could see how difficult it was to reach the final realm in the Tao of Void. He had long reached the bottleneck. Furthermore, he had a supreme secret importation. Yet he only reached the final realm after creating the sixth killing technique. Lord Lo Cheng lowered his head and continued forging the blade embryo in his hand. He muttered softly, if the Tao of Soul reaches the final realm, I wonder what kind of mystical things would happen. Dongbua Shuang? Who knows? You might really become a chaotic origin life form. By then, there would be no need for me to stay here as a guard. The sound of forging continued. Blacksmith, blacksmith, bring out your toughest blade for me. I want the toughest blade. Find one I'm satisfied with. I won't mistreat you. A voice could be heard from outside. A muscular man barged in. I'm coming. Lord Lo Cheng chuckled. Chapter 1263. Eastern Unicorn, Sacred World. In a secluded residence, Dongbua Shuang and his wife Jing Qiu lived in seclusion. Jing Qiu. Dongbua Shuang stood outside a meditation room and shouted. His voice was transmitted into the room. Rumble. The meditation room's door opened. Jing Qiu walked out helplessly. She glared at her husband unhappily. Snow Eagle, don't you know that I am in seclusion? I can't disturb you if there isn't anything important. I was just halfway through my experiment, and you ruined it. Why are you still smiling here? Although your wife isn't as strong as you, cultivation is still very important, right? Haha, no matter what cultivation it is, we will stop today. Come, let us husband and wife drink together and celebrate. Dongbua Shuang pulled his wife along. Celebrate? Jing Qiu was slightly confused. Celebrate what? What is there to celebrate? Dongbua Shuang intentionally didn't say anything. He pulled his wife into a garden, and the two of them sat facing each other. He flicked his hand. Flowers bloomed by the side, and a fragrance permeated the air. Trees were sprouting, and some butterflies were born. They circled around the flowers, and the birds were chirping. In the distant lake, all sorts of mutated beasts appeared. Jing Qiu, let me pour some wine for you. This is the rain tree fruit wine that I personally brewed. Dongbua Shuang poured some wine. Jing Qiu was slightly surprised. She looked at the surroundings and couldn't help but ask, Hurry up and say it. What is it that is worth celebrating? Dongbua Shuang passed his wine cup to his wife. Let's have a toast first. All right, up to you. Jing Xiu was helpless. The two of them clinked their cups, and Dongbua Shuang said softly, "Let me tell you a big secret." "I don't know what big secret it is." Jing Xiu placed her wine cup down. "I have already reached the final realm in the Tao of Void." Dongbua Shuang smiled. Jing Xiu was stunned. Then, she widened her eyes. She stared at Dongbua Shuang. "Really?" Jing Xiu asked after a long pause. "Really?" Dongbua Shuang nodded. Jing Xiu was incomparably excited. They had long since known that their origin world was approaching the great apocalypse. People like Dongbua Yu, Dongbua, and Qin Yao were all extremely diligent in their cultivation. However, in reality, they all understood that the chances of them surviving the great apocalypse were too slim. Even forefather Tian Yu and the others felt that this was an extravagant hope. The greatest possibility was that Dongbua Shuang had stepped into the final realm of the Tao of Void before the great calamity. After reaching the final realm, one's control over the void would increase greatly. With the great world-breaching teleportation technique, one would be able to bring other life forms with them. But I'm only telling you about this for now. You don't have to spread it. Dongbua Shuang said, "I still have an important matter to do in the Realm Heart Great Land. It won't be too late to publicize it after I finish it." "All right." Jing Xiu nodded. The important matter was more important. "This is great." Jing Xiu let out a sigh of relief. Dongbua Shuang chuckled too. The two of them as husband and wife had long seen through life and death. They had seen through life and death in the past when they were still transcendents. They believed that Dongbua Yu and Dongbua Qin Yao had already seen through life and death after cultivating to their current strength. Nonetheless, the two of them still hoped to protect their children. Realm Heart Great Land, Southern Cloud Nation, Feishua City. Dongbua Shui Ying's avatar, guarding the Feishua City, was currently wielding a chaotic origin weapon. He was currently familiarizing himself with his new strength after breaking through. Mysterious. Dongbua Shui Ying stood within the cultivation room. He held onto the Azure River spear and revealed a look of astonishment. Ever since he reached the final realm in the Tao of Void, Dongbua Shui Ying's consciousness easily permeated through the black fog spherical particles. The previously mysterious black fog spherical particles were now like cells in his body. He could easily control them. His consciousness could even permeate into the vast chaotic origin dimension. The enormous origin world was constantly producing ripples, causing the surrounding chaotic origin energy to fluctuate. Wielding the Azure River spear, my perception towards the chaotic origin dimension has clearly become stronger. I can permeate through a greater distance too. Dongbua Shuang sighed. And the sixth and seventh supreme secret importation technique. The final two chaotic origin 7 strikes were extraordinary. Even after reaching the final realm and being guided by supreme secret importation technique, he could not execute them. He had to rely on the chaotic origin weapon to do so. It was precisely by relying on these two strikes that Dongbua Shui Ying's strength could transcend ordinary unparalleled existences. Actually, he did not have the Azure River Spear. Just the first 5 chaotic origin strikes, by relying on top-graded secret treasures, he could fight against unparalleled existences. Just like Swordmaster. These final 2 strikes. Dongbua Shui Ying was startled. Naturally, he would not be foolish enough to imitate it. Instead, he absorbed the essence within and fused it into his own technique. He perfected his techniques. By absorbing a final realm Tao of void technique from a supreme secret importation technique, he executed it using his chaotic origin weapon. One day, Dongbua Shui was currently consolidating his techniques. He was executing a domain-related technique. The Tao of Void was originally famous for its domain techniques. 1. By relying on the Azure River Spear, his perception was much stronger. At this moment, his consciousness fused into the black fog spherical particles. In the blink of an eye, It had spread across the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Every single location within the Realm Heart Great Land, including Eternal Night Primogenitor, Extreme Night Primogenitor, and the three old ancestors from the Icy Snow Ancient Nation, had been thoroughly scouted by Dongbua Shuang. Other than the Realm Heart God Palace and Broken Teeth Mountain Range, there were three other places that he had yet to explore. These three places were the secluded cultivation grounds of Emperor Summer, Drifter, and Limitless City Master. For the sake of avoiding detection, Dongbua Shuang could sense the arrays left behind by Emperor Summer and the others. He knew that he would be triggered the moment he ventured deeper. Hence, he did not probe further. I can actually cover the entire Realm Heart Great Land with my senses. Dongbua Shuang was slightly startled. The Realm Heart Great Land was too big. It was much bigger than most Origin worlds. And the suppression from the Supreme Law was huge too. The detection range of a final realm expert's domain was usually very limited. It was still far from covering the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Even when the primitive ancient sacred world was intact, even though it was much smaller than the Realm Heart Great Land. Final realm experts could not envelop the entire world with a thought. If I didn't have the Azure River Spear, Dongbua Shuang tried not relying on the Azure River Spear. Instead, he relied on his own senses. The range of his senses rapidly shrunk. Even with the supreme graded secret importation technique, the range he could cover with a thought was roughly twice that of the territory of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. It was much weaker than the entire Realm Heart Great Land. I can actually envelop the entire Great Land? If that's the case, wouldn't that undying underworld emperor be unable to escape from my detection? Dongbua Shuang revealed a joyous look. If the enemy remained within his domain, even if the enemy escaped from one location to another, he could immediately conceal his tracks and change his aura. But because he was constantly observing the other party, Shuang could even see through the disguise of the other party. Naturally, the other party could not escape. If his domain was slightly smaller, like with a supreme graded secret importation technique, it would merely be twice that of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. The moment the enemy escaped out of his domain, he would immediately change his aura and appearance, making it impossible for Shuang to locate the enemy. But my domain covers everything. Dongbua Shuang revealed a joyous look. If I don't care about being discovered, I could even forcibly search for Emperor Summer, Drifter, and Limitless City Master. Dongbua Shuang thought. The moment he tried to do so, he would definitely be discovered. Just like how Emperor Summer and the others will be discovered by Shuang. Undying Underworld Emperor. It seems the heavens want you dead. Dongbua Shuang's eyes were filled with killing intent. Currently, this madman was wantonly plundering the souls of countless living beings, and Dongbua Shuang could not stop him at all. Previously, Limitless City Master was the only one who could track him down, yet he refused to help. Fortunately, Shuang had a supreme graded secret importation and a chaotic origin weapon. Furthermore, his void domain was so vast that it could envelop the entire Realm Heart Great Land. The enemy could not escape. Shuang could even arrange an avatar at the boundary of the Broken Teeth Mountain Range. If Undying Underworld Emperor escaped to the Broken Teeth Mountain Range, he would only die faster. Very good. Dongbua Shuang suppressed his killing intent. It has been so long. Let me consolidate my strength a little more. Shuang would first consolidate his strength if he could improve it within a short period. As for the more complex ones like the Chaotic Origin Refinement Body, Dongbua Shuang felt that he could attempt to create the third level of the Chaotic Origin Refinement Body at his current realm. But clearly, the difficulty was too high. It was not something he could do within a short period. He just had to consolidate his strength slightly before he could act. Other than telling his wife and being discovered by Lord Lo Chung, Dongbua Shuang did not tell anyone else about his breakthrough to the final realm. 600 years after breaking through, he had consolidated his strength and perfected the techniques he often used. It is about time. My strength has reached a peak within a short period. It is impossible for me to improve any further. It is time for me to act. Dongbua Shuang thought. Previously, He planned to find a group of world masters to team up with him. Now that his strength had increased, it was sufficient for him to fight one-on-one. Chapter 1264. Standing in his cultivation room with the Azure River Spear in his hand, he released his void domain. His enormous domain soon covered the entire realm Heart Great Land. He only avoided a few places and immediately discovered where Undying Underworld Emperor was located. That was a huge palace hidden deep underground in the wilderness. There were many halls within the palace, and they were all places where Undying Underworld Emperor experimented. Large amounts of souls were being experimented on. There were 12 stone pillars, and every single one of them contained a powerful, vengeful soul. These 12 vengeful souls were incredibly powerful. There were even some unique souls that made Dongbua Shui Ying feel strange. How many souls have he consumed in these experiments? Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes turned red as he watched. Even though the number of souls that died was not as high as the 15 nations, it was equivalent to the total population of an ordinary Tier 3 nation. Madman. If he chose to walk on this evil path in cultivation, he should be killed. Sila. A black crack appeared. Dongbua Shui Ying took a step before disappearing from the place. Great destruction, realm, teleportation. Within the towering palace, Undying Underworld Emperor was still patiently carrying out his experiments. He had not even begun experimenting on that chaotic origin life-form corpse. In his opinion, it was still too early. He had already confirmed some preparatory experiments. Only when he was 90% confident would he experiment on the corpse of the chaotic origin life form. Furthermore, it had only been a few tens of thousands of years since he broke down his talks with Dongbua Shui Ying. The experiments are going smoothly. In the past, I could refine a complete Death Walker. Currently, the conditions aren't sufficient, and I can't sacrifice it on a large scale. But it isn't hard to refine an incomplete Death Walker. I originally planned to succeed within 1 trillion years. But now that I've experimented, I might not even need 1 trillion years. I believe I should be able to do it within 100 billion years. Undying Underworld Emperor was in a good mood. The moment I succeed, Ying Shan Snow Eagle, I'll destroy your Feishua city first. Aren't you planning on moving the entire Ying Shan clan over? By then, I'll wipe out the entire Ying Shan clan. Only then would I be able to vent the anger in my heart. Undying Underworld Emperor looked forward to it. A complete Death Walker was a half-chaotic origin life-form body that could fight against Supremes. An incomplete Death Walker could still fight against great emperors in the eyes of Undying Underworld Emperor. Wiping out Feishua City? Effortlessly. Just wait and see. No one can help you. Unless you can reach the final realm before I refine it. Undying Underworld Emperor did not believe Shui Ying. Rip. Suddenly, a black crack appeared in midair within the towering palace. A white-robed young man walked out from within. He was none other than that outstanding monarch Feishua. He wielded a dark spear and stared at Undying Underworld Emperor coldly, shouting, "Underworld Emperor, your death date has arrived." Ying Shan Snow Eagle? Undying Underworld Emperor was startled. At this moment, Dongbua Shui Ying's aura was grand and sharp. But this aura could be faked. Nonetheless, that chaotic origin weapon in his hand made Undying Underworld Emperor understand that Monarch Feishua might take the risk, but he would absolutely not risk a chaotic origin weapon. Losing an avatar was a minor matter. But if he lost his chaotic origin weapon, that would be a huge loss. Since he dared to bring his chaotic origin weapon here, it was clear he was absolutely confident. The worst-case scenario had still happened. You broke through to the final realm? Undying Underworld Emperor's voice was slightly hoarse. Roar, yeah. The 12 vengeful spirits located on the 12 stone pillars of the palace discovered an outsider. Quite a few of them let out ear-piercing roars. Dongbua Shui Ying looked at those vengeful spirits. Most of them were mad and cruel. Dongbua Shui Ying only felt pity for these vengeful spirits. Rest assured, I'll soon avenge all of you. I have indeed reached the final realm. Why? Are you surprised? Dongbua Shui Ying looked at Undying Underworld Emperor. Surprised. Very surprised. Undying Underworld Emperor understood. He had encountered his greatest crisis. During the time when he was on his path to becoming a chaotic origin life form, he had met with many huge crises. But at that time, experts were as common as clouds. He was merely one of them, and he could escape from death many times. But at this moment in the Realm Heart Great Land, nobody could save him. I guess that you have a high chance of breaking through to the final realm. It's just that I did not expect it to be so fast. Undying Underworld Emperor stood up. It is an accident that your death date should be so fast. Less nonsense. Receive my move. The eyes of Donghua Shui Ying flashed. Hong, the mirage and illusory realm descended. It was none other than the only killing technique he comprehended in the Tao of mirage and illusory realm. Resplendent illusory realm. That resplendent world made Undying Underworld Emperor feel a strong attraction the moment he touched it. Not good. Undying Underworld Emperor felt his heart sinking. In terms of soul and willpower, the mirage and illusory realm had an influence on his heart force similar to that on Supremes. But the 5 great Supremes of Broken Tooth Mountain Range had powerful bloodlines. They did not attach much importance to the profoundness of the realm. Even if their heart force was weaker, they could still unleash a powerful strength. But cultivators were different. The techniques executed by cultivators were incredibly profound. The moment their heart force was damaged, their strength would drop significantly. The influence on my strength is greater than what I expected. Undying Underworld Emperor knew that things were amiss. Oh, the Azure River Spear in Donghua Shui Ying's hand pierced out. This stab, the surrounding world collapsed abruptly. It suppressed and restricted Undying Underworld Emperor. And within that metallic heart of Undying Underworld Emperor, 2 drops of golden blood were ignited consecutively. A unique golden energy immediately surged into his palms. He did not hesitate to receive this stab from Donghua Shui Ying head-on. This stab might seem ordinary, but in reality, it had already pierced through one of the golden palms the moment it was sent out. Pong! Undying Underworld Emperor was sent flying back. He smashed into the palace hall behind him, forming a ravine that was hundreds of thousands of kilometers long. Undying Underworld Emperor flew all the way back to the surface. Falling Starstrike, Donghua Shui Ying took a step before leaving the ground. He arrived in midair before hacking out with the spear in his hand. Oh! The world trembled. Countless primal chaos dark light revolved around the spear. They fused together, forming a faint dark star at the spearhead. When a spear was hacked out, it was just like a dark star arcing through the sky. It directly clashed against Undying Underworld Emperor. This strike was too fast. Undying Underworld Emperor only felt dazed for a moment before the dark star rolled in front of him. He could only hurriedly use his hands to defend against it. Following that, he felt an intense pain in his palms. Ka, the bones in his palms broke. The spear then smashed against the body of Undying Underworld Emperor. It forced Undying Underworld Emperor back once again. Fresh blood spurted out from his mouth. The gap is so huge. Undying Underworld Emperor chose to defend against it twice. He wanted to use this opportunity to sense the gap between them. He estimated that he only had about 30% to 40% of the current strength of this monarch Fei Shue. His mirage and illusory realm has greatly influenced my strength, forcing me to unleash 50% of it. Calculating it this way, even if I do my best without being affected, I should still be slightly weaker than him. When he went all out, his peak strength was roughly 70% of Donghua Shui Ying's. Even though he had guessed it, the moment Donghua Shui Ying broke through, he would most likely become the strongest expert in Realm Heart Great Land. But reality still chilled Undying Underworld Emperor's heart. This time, I'm truly in danger. He could already smell the aura of death. Even though both parties had just started fighting, the disturbance created by Donghua Shui Ying had reached the final realm. He was using his chaotic origin weapon at full force, causing his combat power to be violent to the extreme. On the other side, Undying Underworld Emperor's strength was extraordinary too. How powerful was the clash between both parties? Even the palace, which undying underworld emperor prepared in peace, was smashed apart. The ripples from the clash. It was instantly felt by all cosmos gods across the entire realm heart great land. What is happening? Such terrifying ripples? All of them were sensing the battle from afar. Some even relied on the heaven observation mirror to observe the battle. Some even relied on their own strength to observe from afar. Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, Emperor Song, Sword Master, Limitless City Master, Towering Sky King, and others were watching from afar. Originally, they felt bewildered, but when they saw the origin of the terrifying ripples, they were stunned. They saw two terrifying figures with surging auras. One was Monarch Fei Xue, and the other was the infamous Undying Underworld Emperor. An Undying Underworld Emperor was clearly injured. Chapter 1265. Pong, Pong, Pong. One could see shockwaves spreading in all directions at the region where Dongbua, Xue Ying, and Undying Underworld Emperor fought. And at the core region of the battle, everything was shattered and blurry. Reaching their level, how fast were battles? In the blink of an eye, they could unleash dozens of killing techniques. The weak could not even see the battle clearly. And at this moment, the spectators were all apex experts in Realm Heart Great Land. They could see that Undying Underworld Emperor was at a complete disadvantage. He was even vomiting blood. His body was suffering from heavy injuries. It was a one-sided battle. The one who held the absolute advantage was Monarch Fei Xue, and the one who was in a terrible state was Undying Underworld Emperor. I don't stand a chance in a direct battle. Undying Underworld Emperor roared. Roar! An illusory figure suddenly erupted from his body. This was a huge illusory lion. This lion covered the world. Its power was so strong that it caused Dongbua, Xue Ying's expression, to change slightly. He looked up at this illusory lion. What technique is this? I have never heard of it in Realm Heart Great Land before. Is this a trump card that Undying Underworld Emperor used when he stepped on the Tao path to become a chaotic origin life form? The enormous, illusory lion opened its mouth and devoured. The world turned dark. Unable to dodge, Xue was swallowed in a single gulp. At the moment when he was devoured, Dongbua Xue Ying felt many wicked ripples assaulting his soul. It's just that being in existence that reached the apex in the Tao of Soul in many origin worlds, his defenses were naturally airtight. His soul energy formed an illusory realm that dissipated all incoming attacks. Those thoughts that were filled with resentment, death, and slaughter were being dissipated. Pong! Dongbua Xue Ying remained clear-headed. He did not stop. Brandishing his spear, he charged out of this rapidly weakening, illusory lion. It's really not affected at all. Undying Underworld Emperor's expression turned ugly when he saw that. He had originally cultivated the Tao of Death to the final realm. That time, when he was attempting to become a chaotic origin life form, he had once met an expert from another civilization who had similarly reached a terrifying realm. That expert specialized in controlling death. After he fell, some of his treasures landed in the hands of Undying Underworld Emperor. Undying Underworld Emperor used his comprehension of the Tao of Death to control it. These moves are useless against me. Dongbua Xue Ying brandished his spear, bringing with it a boundless might. As the two sides fought, the difference in strength became more and more obvious. In the past, when Undying Underworld Emperor fought against the experts from the various civilizations, his strongest technique was the Death Walker, followed by the Golden Flame Heart. Naturally, other techniques like the Killing Curse Sacred Lion were becoming less and less important. In order to escape back to his hometown, the Death Walker had long since given up. The blood in Jin Yan's heart was constantly burning. More than half of it had already been burned. Moreover, he was clearly not a match for him in a head-on battle. Furthermore, Dongbua Xue Ying did not have any shortcomings. He was formidable in close combat. His soul technique was terrifying too, rendering all sorts of strange techniques of Undying Underworld Emperor useless. As a result, Undying Underworld Emperor was constantly injured during the battle. Good. Kill him. Kill this Undying Underworld Emperor. Monarch Feishue, kill him. In the entire realm Heart Great Land, there were 6 great ancient nations and many Tier 2 and Tier 3 nations. There were even some organizations in the open or in the dark. Some were famous, and some were living in seclusion. At this moment, too many experts were rapidly watching the battle. They were even transmitting messages to their good friends, causing the number of experts watching the battle to rise. There might be a group of cultivators watching the battle from the Heaven Observation Mirror. Undying Underworld Emperor has such a day too, an old man said excitedly. Ever since he returned safely, I have been waiting for this day. Finally, this day has come. Congratulations, teacher. Monarch Feishue will definitely kill this Undying Underworld Emperor. The disciples by the side were congratulating their teacher. The original clan of their teacher had been exterminated by Undying Underworld Emperor. That was something that happened before the First War of the Ancient Nations. At this moment, many experts were clapping and cheering. They were even looking forward to it, because Undying Underworld Emperor was ruthless in his actions. For his own selfish reasons, he would slaughter in all directions. In the legends, he represented death. Unparalleled existences had never been as crazy and cruel as Undying Underworld Emperor. As he wantonly slaughtered, he had already made too many enemies. Some of the weak cultivators in the past had become cosmos gods. But Undying Underworld Emperor did not care, because he was the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. Those enemies did not dare to appear in front of him. Good. Southern Cloud Capital, within the Royal Palace. Southern Cloud King was looking at the floating Heaven Observation Mirror. By the side, Old Mothering Shan, Monarch Greedy Peng, Monarch Chunyu, and others were either in their true bodies or incarnations. Junior disciple Brother Feishue, beautifully done. Monarch Greedy Peng could not help but praise. The others were also watching with excitement. Even though Southern Cloud King did not say anything, his eyes were emitting light. He hated the death of Undying Underworld Emperor too. He admitted that he had obtained the Twin Realm Blade by chance in the past. But firstly, he had experienced many dangers before getting it. Furthermore, Undying Underworld Emperor had threatened him several times to collect many precious materials. The price of the precious materials had long surpassed that of a top-graded secret treasure. If he acted, he would threaten to wipe out the entire Southern Cloud Capital. Such a threat naturally filled the heart of Southern Cloud King, who was an absolute hero. But he had no choice. He could not resist against Undying Underworld Emperor. Not just him. There were too many cultivators who wished for Undying Underworld Emperor to die. But all along, Undying Underworld Emperor had always been high above. Before the First War of the Ancient Nations, he was already the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. This time, after he returned, his name became even more famous. Even Emperor Summer admitted that he was weaker by a level. Like Southern Cloud King, he had given up previously. He felt that there was no hope and could only allow himself to be squeezed dry. Those enemies of Undying Underworld Emperor could only store their hatred in their hearts. They did not even dare to think of taking revenge, because the gap was too big. Nevertheless, the scene today made them excited. Monarch Feishue, in Shan Snow Eagle, used his absolute power to injure Undying Underworld Emperor. The gap between them was clear. From today onwards, the position of the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land has changed. Emperor Summer stood within the royal palace, watching from afar. He sighed. Just as what we expected, this Monarch Feishue has finally walked to the position of the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. Speaking of which, the scene of him becoming an upper honored guest of my fan clan is still vivid in my mind. Ancestor Fan sighed. It is natural for him to become the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. Emperor Tsong added from his side. In the entire Realm Heart Great Land, there's only this Monarch Feishue who has a supreme secret impartation and a chaotic origin weapon. Furthermore, his soul technique has even shaken the entire Broken Teeth mountain range. By combining these two techniques, Undying Underworld Emperor could not resist at all. Sword Master, who stood by the side of the three, revealed a grin. Snow Eagle has hidden himself quite deeply. Currently in the world, the group of unparalleled existences and ordinary final realm cultivators felt that it was natural, because this monarch Feishue was too dazzling previously. When he was a level 2 cosmos god, any avatar of his could fight against final realm cultivators. His soul technique had caused the Broken Teeth mountain range to tremble. His chaotic origin weapon had also aroused the greed of others. He was absolutely the most terrifying level 2 cosmos god in the history of Realm Heart Greatland. Now that he had broken through to the final realm, he was also the most terrifying final realm cultivator. As the experts under the world watched the battle with complicated emotions, the injuries of Undying Underworld Emperor were worsening. Die! Undying Underworld Emperor screamed madly. Countless insects appeared. They covered the world as they flew towards Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shuang stood there. With a thought, the consciousness of all insects were extinguished, causing them to fall down. Undying Underworld Emperor watched this with an ugly expression. He knew that it was pointless to release the poisonous insects which he had painstakingly collected. It was only because he was desperate that he took them out to try. Deep in his heart, he was still hoping for a miracle. What should I do? What should I do now? Undying Underworld Emperor gritted his teeth. I can't care anymore. I should survive first. At the very most, I'll just hide forever. South, the figure of Undying Underworld Emperor tunneled into a dark corridor and disappeared from the vicinity. Escaping? He escaped. Undying Underworld Emperor has escaped. All the spectators understood this point. It seems he has completely admitted defeat. Many experts understood this point. This was commonly seen in the Realm Heart Greatland. Those final realm devils frequently used this technique. The moment they escaped, it would be hard for them to chase after them. No matter what, this battle has proven that the strongest expert in the Realm Heart Greatland will be this monarch Feishue from now on. As for Undying Underworld Emperor, he should be escaping the moment he sees monarch Feishue. Many experts were already discussing with one another. They felt that this battle had ended. Unless he escaped, this matter has ended? There were some who wished for Undying Underworld Emperor to die. They felt unwilling when they saw what happened. But they were clear. It was easy to defeat a final realm expert, but hard to kill one. Escape? Dongbua Shuang stood in midair. He wielded the chaotic origin weapon Azure River Spear. His consciousness had already fused into his ripples that covered every single region in the Realm Heart Greatland. For the sake of preventing Undying Underworld Emperor from escaping, he even covered the territories of Emperor Summer, Drifter, and Limitless City Master. He could no longer care about alarming them. His domain covered every single region in the Realm Heart Greatland. Dongbua Shuang saw the escape trajectory of Undying Underworld Emperor clearly. Chapter 1266. The absolute majority of experts felt that this battle had ended. Only a minority hoped for a miracle to happen. They wanted Undying Underworld Emperor to die, and Emperor Summer, Drifter, and Limitless City Master were aware of the problem. This void domain has already covered the royal palace. Drifter is still in the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and is very far away from my Summerwind Ancient Nation. It is impossible for him to cover this area. Then it can only be this monarch Feishue. Emperor Summer watched from afar. The place where he fought with Underworld Emperor is very far away from my Summerwind Ancient Nation. Yet his void domain could cover such a long distance? Or is he relying on a large number of avatars to execute his domain? In reality, even if he relied on his avatars, his domain was far from sufficient. Dongbua Shuang's strongest avatar could only cover twice the area of the Summerwind Ancient Nation by relying on a supreme secret importation, and he could at most maintain 9 peak avatars. There were many huge places in the Realm Heart Greatland. There were also vast oceans. For instance, the Icy Snow Ancient Nation was ridiculously huge. At one of the boundary regions of the Realm Heart Greatland, Hong Long Long, at the end of the land was a surging storm. Beyond the storm was the membrane wall of the origin world. I've escaped to the end. Undying Underworld Emperor stood by the boundary of the storm. He did not care about the terrifying storm. Instead, he felt slightly nervous. The distance between this place and the place where they fought is more than half the entire Realm Heart Great Land. There has never been anyone who could cover such a huge region just by relying on a domain. There are many boundary regions, and I've casually chosen this place. Even if Monarch Feishua has avatars, the possibility of me being discovered by his avatar domain is very low. Even if I were to be discovered once, I can't escape again. As long as I escape out of his domain, he can't find me. Unless he can trace me. Given my realm and my control over my soul, I can prevent my aura from leaking out. Only Limitless City Master could trace me. And Limitless City Master has never been willing to participate in huge karma. Undying Underworld Emperor softly nodded. He felt that the possibility of Monarch Feishua finding him was very low. Emperor Hades, where are you going? A voice rang out. Undying Underworld Emperor could not help but tremble. He turned over, only to see a white-robed young man wielding a black spear arriving through the void. He was none other than that Monarch Feishua. Accompanying his arrival was the merciless spear technique of Donghua Shuang. Undying Underworld Emperor had to ignite his heart blood to defend against several moves before tearing another path to escape. I've been discovered? Could it be that his avatar happened to be waiting here? Don't run anymore. Undying Underworld Emperor had just appeared in another forest by the boundary of Realm Heart Great Land when a spear chased after him. It struck Undying Underworld Emperor's body until it tore apart. His body rapidly condensed back into darkness before escaping once again. Run, run, run. Undying Underworld Emperor tried to escape more than a dozen times. Gradually, his heart turned cold, because even if the doppelgangers were enveloped by the domain, how could it be so coincidental that every time they escaped, they would be within the domain? He can trace people, or is Limitless helping him? Undying Underworld Emperor stopped. He stood at the edge of an ocean world. Turning around, he saw Donghua Shuang rushing over once again. At this moment, the eyes of Undying Underworld Emperor were filled with resolution. As he parried against Donghua Shuang's killing technique, he anxiously transmitted over, Monarch Feishua, do you want me to die? Then I'll let all living beings accompany me in death. Donghua Shuang stopped. He did not continue attacking. Instead, he stood in midair looking at Undying Underworld Emperor. Accompany you in death. I truly admire you. You can trace me? Or did you persuade Limitless City Master to help you? The eyes of Undying Underworld Emperor were filled with madness. His soul was trembling. That was a frenzied trembling before death. Even though you are stronger than me, I can similarly let all living beings accompany me in death. Given your current injuries, how long can you last? Donghua Shuang coldly said, You can try. Aren't you worried about those ants? Either you let me go, or I'll let all living beings accompany me in death. Undying Underworld Emperor growled. Donghua Shuang looked at this Undying Underworld Emperor. This Underworld Emperor had indeed made him feel a strand of terror, because this was a madman who had no worries. Furthermore, he was so strong that he was second only to Shuang. It was impossible for Shuang to allow the Yingshan clan and other people whom he cared about to hide in Feishua City forever. But the moment they left, Undying Underworld Emperor might turn hostile in the blink of an eye. That would most likely result in another great massacre. I feel that letting you live will be a greater threat to the masses. Furthermore, I don't think you can kill too many cultivators in front of me. The eyes of Donghua Shuang flashed. The spear in his hand directly pierced out. Monarch Feishua. The mad roar of Undying Underworld Emperor reverberated across the world. Because Undying Underworld Emperor was constantly escaping, and Donghua Shuang was constantly chasing after him. Their battlefields appeared across many places in Realm Heart Great Land. The disturbance caused by their battle was huge. The moment they fought, many experts in Realm Heart Great Land sensed it. They immediately turned to watch the battle. They had also seen the conversation between Dongbua Shui Ying and Undying Underworld Emperor. Undying Underworld Emperor threatened Monarch Fei Xue with the words, "All living beings will die with him." Yet Monarch Fei Xue still acted. Good. There were many experts who were cheering for Shui Ying when he acted. Including Emperor Xia and the other powerhouses, they all sighed. They were startled that Undying Underworld Emperor was still being chased after no matter how he tried to escape. They were also lamenting that Undying Underworld Emperor, who stood above many cultivators, would most likely die soon. Beautiful. In Southern Cloud Capital, Southern Cloud King, who had been silent all this while finally spoke. He stared at the heaven observation mirror. When Undying Underworld Emperor escaped, he was afraid that Dongbua Shui Ying could not chase after him. But when Undying Underworld Emperor chased after him, he became excited. When Undying Underworld Emperor threatened Monarch Fei Xue with the words, "All living beings will die with him," Southern Cloud King became worried that his disciple would be soft-hearted. Finally, is he finally going to be freed? This madman is finally going to die? Southern Cloud King watched with anticipation. Amazing. Truly amazing. I actually have such a junior disciple brother. The strongest expert in Realm Heart Great Land is actually my junior disciple brother. Monarch Greedy Peng sighed. He is so terrifyingly powerful. I am actually his senior disciple sister. Empress ghostly praised from aside. Even Undying Underworld Emperor is about to be killed by Snow Eagle. Old Mother Yingshan felt that everything was like a dream. She could still remember clearly. That genius young fellow from the lineage of Marquis Ardent Fire from the Yingshan clan, who was born as a void god. The rise of this genius young fellow was simply too amazing. That time, this young fellow even wanted the spearhead of the Scarlet Cloud God Spear, and it was she, Old Mother Yingshan, who bought it for him. After that, when the Ardent Fire City blood sacrifice happened, this Yingshan Snow Eagle, this prince, erupted with a terrifying combat power. He shocked the world with a single feat, and his name shook the Black Devil Four Nations and Black Devil Great Lake. A 10th level cultivator became an upper honored guest of the Fan clan. After becoming a cosmos god, he went to the Realm Heart God Palace and was killed by Eternal Night Primogenitor. Only then did he choose to remain low profile. This period of hibernation. Instead, he acted with the identity of Heaven's Will Daoist, intimidating all devils under the world by himself. And now, he is even about to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Old Mother Yingshan muttered, "Such an absolute expert actually came from my Yingshan clan." At this moment, Old Mother Yingshan was filled with joy and pride. When Undying Underworld Emperor was constantly being chased, he could not escape. Dongbua Shui Ying did not care about his threats. Many experts across the entire Realm Heart Great Land felt that Undying Underworld Emperor might really fall this time. Many were cheering and slapping the table. But Dongbua Shui Ying felt his heart aching because he had to pay a price in order to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Die. Let us all die together. Undying Underworld Emperor escaped above a huge city before taking the initiative to attack. Oh, the surging void ocean distorted. It was doing its best to resist against the attack of Undying Underworld Emperor. Dongbua Shui Ying once again came over. Even though he specialized in domain suppression and was doing his best to chase after Undying Underworld Emperor at his fastest speed, a large number of beings were still killed. Many beings could not even react before they were killed. This made Dongbua Shui Ying even more furious. Even if he had to pay a price, he had to eliminate the other party. It seems he can't hold on any longer. Dongbua Shui Ying could ascertain that Undying Underworld Emperor was gravely injured. He should only be left with 20% of his life force. I can't hold on any longer. The current situation of Undying Underworld Emperor was much worse than what Dongbua Shui Ying expected, because he had to ignite his heart blood every time he fought. Even after igniting his heart blood, he still had 30% to 40% of Dongbua Shui Ying's strength. If he did not ignite his heart blood, he would only have 10% to 20% left. That way, he would die even faster. My heart blood is almost gone. The golden flame heart in his body was left with a pitiful 3 droplets of blood. Undying Underworld Emperor felt slight despair. Chapter 1267. I have no other choice. I can only seek for life and death. Undying Underworld Emperor gritted his teeth. Even though he did not wish to choose, the moment he ignited his heart blood, Dongbua Shui Ying would have an overwhelming advantage. He would no longer have a choice. Hong Hong, when a pair of golden palms parried against the terrifying spear, the surrounding night sky had already shattered. Many pitch-black cracks could even be seen on the other end of the chaotic origin dimension. Chaotic origin energy could be seen seeping in through the cracks. That was a higher dimension, a place where only existences at a higher level of life could truly live. So, Undying Underworld Emperor did not hesitate. He directly charged into the chaotic origin dimension through the cracks. Mn. Dongbua Shui Ying's expression changed, but he did not hesitate. With his so, he similarly entered the chaotic origin dimension. What? Undying Underworld Emperor has escaped into the chaotic origin dimension? That monarch Fei Xue is chasing after him too? They did not execute the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. Instead, they are forcing their way in. Are they tired of living? One is chasing, and the other is escaping into the chaotic origin dimension. Didn't they say that those who have not jumped out of the cage would be corroded by the chaotic origin energy after entering the chaotic origin dimension? What do you know? How strong is Undying Underworld Emperor? Ordinary, unparalleled existences aren't his opponent. That monarch Fei Xue is even more amazing than Undying Underworld Emperor. Reaching their level, they should be able to survive for a short period in the chaotic origin dimension, right? The spectators across the entire Realm Heart Great Land were dumbstruck. Killing his way into the chaotic origin dimension? Clearly, he was not seeking death. This had already surpassed their imaginations. In the opinion of ordinary cosmos gods, unless they had some unique movement techniques, they would definitely die if they entered the chaotic origin dimension with their fleshy bodies. Monarch Fei Xue's heart of killing Undying Underworld Emperor is truly heavy. Emperor Summer watched from afar. He sighed, but he knew that once his fleshy body charged out of the origin world, as long as it did not stray too far away, he could still survive for a period. For instance, his chaotic origin refinement body was a cultivation technique that relied on the chaotic origin energy to refine his fleshy body. What is the current situation of the two of them? Ancestor Fan asked from his side. He did not know how the battle was going. The Gray Emperor and the Sword Master looked towards the Xia Emperor as well. Have a look. Emperor Summer waved his hand, causing a scene to appear by the side. It was the scene that happened in the chaotic origin dimension. When Undying Underworld Emperor charged into the chaotic origin dimension, the surrounding chaotic origin energy was forced apart. Nevertheless, Dongbua Shui Ying, who wielded the Azure River Spear, chased after him at an even faster speed. Currently, in the entire Realm Heart Great Land, only a few could watch the battle. Even a majority of unparalleled existences could not. Snow Eagle. In the Southern Cloud Nation, Old Mother Shan became anxious. Kill his way into the chaotic origin dimension? Impulsive, too impulsive. Southern Cloud King was incredibly worried. Even if he killed Undying Underworld Emperor, he might accidentally die in battle, leaving his chaotic origin weapon in the chaotic origin dimension. By then, it would be too late for regrets. In the Realm Heart Great Land, unparalleled existences relied on supreme graded secret treasures. The reason why Dongbua Shui Ying could reach his current combat power was partly because of his chaotic origin weapon. Naturally, he still had his Mirage and Illusory Realm technique. I don't know what's going on. I can't even see anything. I don't even know what would happen after killing my way into the chaotic origin dimension. Many experts were anxious and nervous. This was the life and death battle between the two most terrifying existences in the entire Realm Heart Great Land. They wanted to know the outcome within the chaotic origin dimension. Dongbua Shui Ying did not hesitate. He closely followed through the black crack into the chaotic origin dimension. After reaching the final realm, he spent 600 years consolidating his strength. During this period, he had tried creating the third level of chaotic origin refinement body. He had also taken the initiative to enter the chaotic origin dimension because it was normal at this level. When his Azure River Spear erupted, he could easily blast out an enormous hole that spanned 100 meters. Large amounts of chaotic origin energy surged in. It was not much different from being in the chaotic origin dimension himself. He sent an avatar into the chaotic origin dimension without bringing along his chaotic origin weapon. Because he had experience, Undying Underworld Emperor did not hesitate to enter the chaotic origin dimension. He entered once again. Even though he had experience, he was still stunned and obsessed by it. The Tao of Void was very unique. It was more suited to pry into the mysteries of the chaotic origin dimension than most Tao paths. As Ying charged in, he used his Azure River Spear to control the surrounding chaotic origin energy and split it apart. Nonetheless, the chaotic origin energy was endless. Some of it still touched his fleshy body. The moment it touched his fleshy body, it rapidly corroded away. His fleshy body was like air. The chaotic origin energy directly penetrated through his fleshy body and soul. The process of penetrating was also the process of corrosion, because he had the Azure River Spear to control it. Furthermore, the final realm Tao of Void had reached an unfathomable stage in his control of voidification. Hence, he could minimize the corrosion of his fleshy body, causing the thin chaotic origin energy to have a weak effect on his chaotic origin refinement body. His recovery speed was sufficient for him to recover. Realm Heart Great Land. This was an enormous origin world. It was vast. It was emitting endless ripples that were constantly clashing against the surrounding chaotic origin energy. In reality, the chaotic origin energy was also influenced by the power of the Realm Heart Great Land. The closer one was to the Realm Heart Great Land, the thinner the chaotic origin energy would be. The further one was, the deeper one went into the chaotic origin dimension, and the more vast the chaotic origin energy would be. The power of an origin world was extremely powerful. Hence, even if it was a chaotic origin life form, if they controlled an origin world and relied on that origin world, they would still be able to greatly improve their strength. After all, it was something that gathered an incomparably vast world energy into a single body. He really killed his way over. Undying Underworld Emperor glanced at Ying, who was chasing after him. His expression turned ugly. Then come. For the sake of killing me, are you willing to give up this avatar of yours? Once this avatar is gone, this chaotic origin weapon will be gone too. Undying Underworld Emperor continued charging forward in a frenzy. When he just charged out of the Realm Heart Great Land, the surrounding chaotic origin energy was slightly less concentrated. Furthermore, the supreme law of the Realm Heart Great Land was still affecting the surroundings, preventing the corrosion from being too strong. As he continued moving forward, the area ahead became darker and quieter. The chaotic origin energy became denser and denser. It was constantly scouring through the fleshy body and soul of Undying Underworld Emperor. His fleshy body and soul were constantly being corroded. You can't escape. A furious roar actually reached the ears of Undying Underworld Emperor through the chaotic origin energy. A spear had already smashed down in front of Undying Underworld Emperor. So fast, Undying Underworld Emperor felt incredibly anxious and unwilling. That time, when he left the Realm Heart Great Land, it was because he obtained the opportunity to charge into the Tao of chaotic origin that he was bestowed with the movement technique by Yuan. That was how he could travel through the chaotic origin dimension. But after spending so much time in the external world, his fear towards the chaotic origin dimension had gradually decreased. He had even entered the chaotic origin dimension many times. He had experience. He even pondered over many techniques. He felt that compared to this new final realm expert, he should have some advantage when fighting in the chaotic origin dimension, even if the other party was a Tao of Void expert. But he was wrong. Firstly, Dongbua Shui Ying had acquired the chaotic origin Dao scroll before. This was a cultivation technique that Emperor Summer used the chaotic origin energy to cultivate his fleshy body. Dongbua Shui Ying had attempted to perfect it. He had even taken the initiative to enter the chaotic origin dimension before. Furthermore, using the chaotic origin energy to cultivate his fleshy body would be more effective when resisting against the denser chaotic origin energy. Secondly, the Tao of Void was the most advantageous in the chaotic origin dimension. No matter if it was voidification of the fleshy body to reduce the impact or flight speed, it could be used to great effect. Instead, it was other Daos that were significantly weaker in the chaotic origin dimension. Thirdly, the chaotic origin weapon Azure River Spear was able to control the chaotic origin energy, allowing Dongbua Shui Ying to survive for a longer period in the chaotic origin dimension. Due to these reasons, Dongbua Shui Ying was able to rapidly catch up to him. Pong! The spear came smashing down. Undying Underworld Emperor simply used both his hands to block the incoming force, allowing this powerful smash to send him flying further away. He was getting further and further away from the Realm Heart Great Land, this enormous origin world. Come, if you're daring, come. Continue coming. Enter deeper into the chaotic origin dimension. As Undying Underworld Emperor was flying backwards, he was still staring at Dongbua Shui Ying. He was becoming more and more frenzied. Chapter 1268. Dongbua Shui Ying felt that as he flew, even though he turned around, the origin world Realm Heart Great Land was still very close behind him. But that was because the Realm Heart Great Land was too huge. The location where they fought was still affected by the energy coming from the Realm Heart Great Land. But as they flew at high speeds, they could feel the density of the chaotic origin energy continuously increasing. This density had far exceeded what he could use during cultivation. Fortunately, he had the control of the Azure River Spear, allowing the chaotic origin energy to form a path that minimized the corrosion. Hong hong hong. Dongbua Shui Ying's speed was incredibly fast. He did not show any mercy the moment he caught up. As for Undying Underworld Emperor, he did not care about his life. Nevertheless, his fleshy body gradually changed color, turning grayish-white. He can't hold on any longer. Dongbua Shui Ying revealed a joyous look. He actually can't hold on any longer. Previously, the battle in the Realm Heart Great Land has heavily injured me. If my body was in perfect condition, I could still hold on for a longer period. At this moment, many scenes flashed through the mind of Undying Underworld Emperor. Ever since he rose from being weak to become a hegemon in the Realm Heart Great Land, he was dazzling. He struck fear in many experts across the entire Realm Heart Great Land, thinking that he was the incarnation of death. His strength was even favored by Yuan. He was even filled with confidence when he stepped on the path to become a chaotic origin life form. He left his hometown. Only after he left did he understand that there was always a sky beyond the sky. Beyond geniuses, there were even more geniuses. He failed. Just like the majority of experts from civilizations, some died, and some were even exiled. It was already fortunate that he could escape back. Even after escaping back, I've met this monster, Monarch Fei Shue. Ignoring everything else, his soul technique is the most terrifying I've ever seen. Undying Underworld Emperor looked at Dongbua Shui Ying before grinning. That grayish-white face of his that was filled with a decaying aura caused Dongbua Shui Ying to be slightly startled. Dongbua Shui Ying had a premonition. So, Undying Underworld Emperor's body abruptly transformed into a dark light. He then began escaping. Escaping? You're still thinking of escaping at this moment? Even though the other party's body had been corroded to the point of death, the other party could still survive if he escaped. Swoosh! Dongbua Shui Ying instantly executed his Great World Destruction teleportation technique as well. After reaching the final realm, he was able to execute the Great World Destruction teleportation technique with his physical body. Phew! He chased after the position of Undying Underworld Emperor and soon caught up to him. 2. Escape techniques. Clearly, The Void Dao's Great Destruction Realm Evasion technique was faster. Die! At the moment when he caught up to Undying Underworld Emperor, a spear lashed out at the body of Undying Underworld Emperor, blasting him out of the passage. While traveling, they couldn't be attacked. Dongbua Shui Ying naturally exited the passage as well. Chi. Even though Shui Ying was long prepared and had relied on the Azure River Spear to control the surrounding chaotic origin energy, he was still unable to do so. But the surrounding chaotic origin energy was too horrifying. Although it was just a blink of an eye, the distance between them was 1,000 times greater than when they were flying in pursuit at the beginning. Previously, they were still very close to the Realm Heart Great Land. But now, they were much further away from the Realm Heart Great Land. Dongbua Shui Ying relied on the Azure River Spear to control the chaotic origin energy, yet he could feel the surrounding chaotic origin energy becoming incredibly heavy. It was more than 1,000 times heavier than before. Large amounts of chaotic origin energy were sweeping across his fleshy body and soul, causing his fleshy body to be corroded. His skin had even turned grayish-white. This grayish-white was even permeating into his body. Instead, the damage done to his soul was much lower. Under this corrosion, even with the help of the Azure River Spear, my fleshy body can only last for a breath of time. My soul can instead last for a few dozen breaths. Dongbua Shui Ying immediately understood this point. South, he closely followed up. The spear in his hand rapidly pierced out. His spear expanded. Hu Qi. It directly pierced through the chest of Undying Underworld Emperor. Undying Underworld Emperor's fleshy body could no longer withstand the corrosion before executing his movement technique. At this moment, under this much denser chaotic origin energy, the insides of his body began collapsing. This spear pierced through him. He did not even have the strength to resist. Instead, his body completely collapsed. Punk! When he was pierced through, Undying Underworld Emperor stared at Dongbua Shui Ying. Following that, his body completely collapsed and dissipated within the chaotic origin dimension. The robe he was wearing had become tattered under the corrosion. Even his storage Eden treasures were similarly corroded, revealing many items within. Many items were also rapidly corroding. Only a few could remain intact in the chaotic origin dimension. For instance, unique materials like that chaotic origin lifeform corpse or the crown of Undying Underworld Emperor. That was his supreme graded secret treasure, the Death Emperor crown. Who? Dongbua Shui Ying waved his hand. He controlled the void to keep these items. At the same time, he grabbed that Death Emperor crown with a single hand. He looked down at the Death Emperor crown. This was the supreme graded secret treasure that Undying Underworld Emperor used to shake the world. It was also the proof that he killed Undying Underworld Emperor. Relying on this, he would be able to intimidate the world. He could even kill Undying Underworld Emperor. How could those devils compare to Undying Underworld Emperor? Who? Dongbua Shui Ying immediately executed the Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique. He rapidly teleported towards the distant Realm Heart Great Land. In a short period, his skin and part of his muscles had turned grayish-white. This corrosion speed was too fast. Emperor Summer, Drifter, Limitless City Master, and several other unparalleled existences were watching the battle between Dongbua Shui Ying and Undying Underworld Emperor outside the Realm Heart Great Land. In the end, the body of Undying Underworld Emperor turned grayish-white. He continued fleeing deeper into the chaotic origin dimension using his movement technique. They could no longer watch the battle. The body of Undying Underworld Emperor has been corroded to the point where it can no longer hold on. Monarch Feishue has really chased after him. They watched as Dongbua Shui Ying continued using the Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique. They cannot help but feel shocked. This time, he is determined to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. But isn't this too reckless? Even though one was chasing and the other was fleeing, in reality, they are still very close to the origin world of the Realm Heart Great Land. But now that he is using his movement technique, even if it is only for a moment, he would travel very far away. that is truly deep within the chaotic origin dimension. The corrosion over there is much more frightening, given the current state of Undying Underworld Emperor's fleshy body. As long as Monarch Feishue slightly disturbs his movement technique, Undying Underworld Emperor would undoubtedly die. If Monarch Feishue chased after him, Undying Underworld Emperor would definitely die. But can Monarch Feishue return alive? Even though he has many avatars, this avatar of his has a chaotic origin weapon. Emperor Summer and the others became nervous. They took the initiative to form a screen, allowing Emperor Tsong, Ancestor Fan, Swordmaster, and other unparalleled existences to see it. Everyone was having a unique thought process. On one aspect, they were startled at the strength of Monarch Feishue. They felt that he could kill the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, Undying Underworld Emperor, to such an extent. Furthermore, he seemed to know the tracing technique that prevented Undying Underworld Emperor from escaping. Such a technique could kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Most likely, he could kill other unparalleled existences in the world. Even if Monarch Feishue had many avatars, he could still kill all the avatars of the enemies. The enemies could only survive if they hid their avatars in other origin worlds. Such a deterrent force, it was sufficient to frighten the world. Much less the devils. Even unparalleled existences would feel pressured. It is fine if Monarch Feishue is powerful. More importantly, it is pointless to hide one's tracks in front of him. Emperor Summer sighed. Previously, an ordinary final realm expert could wreak havoc in the world precisely because the moment he concealed his tracks, even I can't trace him. The only one who could trace him, Limitless City Master, isn't willing to participate. It's just that Monarch Feishue doesn't just have the strength to kill, he also has the tracing ability. It is impossible to escape from him. But if he doesn't have his chaotic origin weapon, his deterrent force will be greatly reduced. Emperor Summer said. This time, he is still slightly rash in his pursuit. The reason why Dongbua Shui Ying dared to pursue after Monarch Feishue with his movement technique was because the corrosive effect on him was minimal. But Monarch Feishue usually wouldn't do things unless he was confident. Like previously when he tried to kill Undying Underworld Emperor, he didn't act because he could not invite Limitless City Master. Ancestor Fan said, since he dared to chase after Monarch Feishue, he should be confident. If he killed Undying Underworld Emperor and brought the chaotic origin weapon back to the Realm Heart Great Land, that would be terrifying. Emperor Tsong sighed. I doubt there would be anyone in the entire Realm Heart Great Land who doesn't revere him. Yes. Emperor Summer nodded. Reaching that stage, he did not have the confidence to resist against Dongbua Shui Ying even in his territory in the capital. Even he, Emperor Summer, felt the same. Other unparalleled existences could not fight against this Monarch Feishue, even in their territories. Amen? This is the unparalleled existences across the entire Realm Heart Great Land, and a large number of cosmos gods sensed it almost at the same time. Many heaven observation mirrors immediately turned towards the origin of that terrifying fluctuation. That was a figure that forcefully blasted through the membrane of the origin world, blasting out an enormous black hole spanning several hundred meters. The white-robed Dongbua Shui Ying held onto the Azure River Spear in one hand and the Death Emperor crown in the other. Crown? Death Emperor crown? That is the Death Emperor crown of Undying Underworld Emperor. Seeing Monarch Feishue returning with the Azure River Spear, many unparalleled existences felt their hearts trembling. The beautiful dream of this Monarch Feishue losing his Azure River Spear was gone. After all, nobody was willing to have a terrifying existence that could threaten their lives appear above their heads. And many cosmos gods trembled when they saw that Death Emperor crown. They understood. That was the supreme graded secret treasure of Undying Underworld Emperor. One could easily imagine the fate of Undying Underworld Emperor when his supreme graded secret treasure fell into the hands of Dongbua Shui Ying. He is back. He is back. In Southern Cloud Nation, Southern Cloud King, Old Mother Shan, and others were incredibly excited. Terrifying, undying Underworld Emperor is finally dead. He is finally dead. Many experts across the entire Realm Heart Great Land felt their hearts trembling. Yama, religion master from Black Devil Great Lake, looked at the heaven observation mirror. That white-robed figure holding onto the Death Emperor crown with the Azure River spear in the other hand side. From today onwards, the Realm Heart Great Land has entered a new era. An era that belongs to Monarch Faciua. An era where devils no longer exist. End of this chapter, the 36th chapter, final chapter, ended. Tomorrow, they would stop updating for a day to plan the plot. The 37th chapter would be updated the day after tomorrow. Chapter 1269. Eternal Night Primogenitor and Extreme Night Primogenitor stood side by side. Their capes were fluttering in the wind. They were both watching the source of that terrifying disturbance, the black hole in the membrane wall of the origin world. A white-robed figure flew in from the black hole. He held the Azure River spear in one hand and the Death Emperor crown in the other. That unseen killing intent could be felt even from a great distance away. Fortunately, Eternal Night, you have lowered your head previously. Extreme Night Primogenitor chuckled. Otherwise, the next unparalleled existence to die after undying Underworld Emperor would be you. Right. Eternal Night Primogenitor was watching too. His eyes were faintly filled with golden light. Fortunately, I have lowered my head. I expected that the moment he reached the final realm, he would be able to suppress undying Underworld Emperor in the Tao of Void. Under his soul technique, my strength was greatly reduced. Even in the Eternal Night City, I would most likely lose my life. Who would have thought that even undying Underworld Emperor was killed so easily? Even though there were some twists and turns in the process, the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land had died so quickly. It was still too straightforward. Underworld Emperor is very formidable. At the very end, he used all sorts of techniques that I could not see through. I even felt that he was a huge threat. Extreme Night Primogenitor chuckled. It's just that his techniques are useless against Monarch Flying Snow. From today onwards, there's an additional deterrent spear above our heads. If we were to go back on our words, he could easily kill us. Eternal Night Primogenitor mocked himself. They were unparalleled existences. Even ordinary final realm existences were free and unfettered. Sometimes they could do whatever they wanted. So what if they massacred an entire city? So what if they used blood sacrifice? Regardless, they were not afraid of anything. Nobody could threaten their lives. Even the high and mighty one could not be bothered to care about ants as long as it did not affect the order of the entire Realm Heart Great Land. But now, they no longer dared to do whatever they wanted. It was pointless even if they hid in their territories. The territories had to construct many huge arrays. The more top-graded the array, the greater the price. After reaching the unparalleled level, they had to increase their strength further. The price was too high. Like Emperor Summer and Eternal Night Primogenitor, they were quite formidable in their territories, yet the increase in their strength would not be too exaggerated. That was because it was impossible for them to construct enough top-graded arrays endlessly. The weaker they were, the more exaggerated the increase. Ordinary Ultimate Realm cultivators did not have paramount secret treasures, so their combat strength was relatively weak. The help of the magic formation in the nest was more obvious. In the nest, he could have the combat power of the invincible realm. Just like Dongbua Shuang, reaching his current stage, the price of constructing arrays suitable for his current realm in his territory was ridiculously high. It was hard to find materials that could withstand the 7th strike of the chaotic origin 7 strikes. Undying Underworld Emperor felt awkward too. If he did not care about the price to construct his territory, the strength unleashed by relying on the territory might not be as effective as igniting his heart blood. What's more, even if they had to pay a huge price to build their nest and defend it, even if the effect was comparable to the burning of heart blood, Dongbua Shuang would send a large group of world lords to surround him, and he would still have to run for his life. Become stronger. Strange soul technique. It can also easily summon a large group of world lords. The invincible existences were all fearful and in awe. This shockingly talented monarch flying snow was absolutely the strongest final realm expert with the greatest deterrence in history. After killing Underworld Emperor, he took the initiative to blast apart the membrane of the origin world, creating a huge disturbance. He even deliberately held onto the Death Emperor crown. It seems he is planning to intimidate the world. Following this, the Realm Heart Great Land is going to change. Many experts could vaguely guess what would happen after seeing how Dongbua Shui Ying deliberately held onto the Death Emperor crown. Reality was as such. Other than the great devils who had long lowered their heads and sworn oaths, the other arrogant and egotistical existences originally wanted to observe the situation. They were not willing to lower their heads and swear oaths to bind themselves. But it was too late for them to beg for mercy now. Monarch, I am willing to swear an oath. Too late. Monarch, I have stopped killing. I have never killed. But you have killed in the past. Just a single night. It caused the entire Realm Heart Great Land to change color. Some of the famous devils on the list were at the Paragon Master level. As long as they did not lower their heads and swear an oath before he fought with undying Underworld Emperor, they would be able to do so. They would no longer have the chance to do so. Humph. Dongbua Shui Ying stood in the night sky looking at the annihilated devil. If I were to spare you, who would spare the trillions and trillions of sentient beings that you massacred? Towards the devils including Eternal Night Primogenitor, Moonflower King, Eight Silk Island Master, and many other great devils, Dongbua Shui Ying wanted to kill all of them, because the blood on the hands of these devils was simply too much. But previously, he did not have sufficient strength before he reached the final realm. Many great devils could guess that the moment this monarch Faciua broke through to the final realm, it would be their doomsday. Many came to lower their heads. If Shui Ying did not give them a chance to live, these great devils would likely turn mad. Hence, they could only compromise. As long as he lowered his head and swore an oath, he would let bygones be bygones. Now, I have the power to punish. Beg for mercy? Dongbua Shui Ying's heart was extremely cold. Without killing enough, how are we going to intimidate the later generations? How do we change the era? Cosmos God-level devils would either lower their heads and swear an oath, or those who did not would be exterminated. After the terrifying day known as the Devil Extermination Night, the atmosphere in the entire Realm Heart Great Land changed drastically. In the entire Realm Heart Great Land, there was no longer any blood sacrifice, because only the few apex devils knew how to refine the essence of blood spirit. Since they did not dare to do evil, it was meaningless to sacrifice countless sentient beings. Moreover, there was no such devil who dared to court death. Once the demon was discovered, he would definitely die. There was no need for Dongbua Shui Ying to make a move. Many experts who could not stand the sight of evil took the initiative to attack. Times have really changed. He has truly changed the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Many cosmos gods could not help but be startled as they watched the transformation of the Realm Heart Great Land. As time passed, in the Realm Heart Great Land, many new generations of cultivators were startled. What? There was a blood sacrifice in the past. A city with trillions of sentient beings was directly massacred by the blood sacrifice. Is this real or fake? The great devils in the past could easily kill trillions of sentient beings? That's impossible. How could there be such a crazy devil? They did not believe it since they had never seen it, because the current Realm Heart Great Land was a devil that everyone wanted to kill. The moment a devil was discovered, there would be a group of cultivators who would take the initiative to kill them. All of them had a strong sense of justice. In reality, before the rise of Dongbua Shui Ying, the so-called devils could only be considered small fries in the gathering grounds of those devils. Wretched green old devil, you can't escape from us. Many training teams have been wiped out one after another. The few of us thought that it was someone who met danger and died. Who would have thought that it was you? You old devil. You should just die. 7 figures chased after a green-robed old man who was fleeing in panic. And on top of a mountain far away, 2 figures were currently standing there. One was the white-robed Dongbua Shuiying, and the other was the loose black-robed Emperor Summer. The 2 of them stood side by side as they watched everything happening. Fei Xue, you are truly amazing. It seems like it was just yesterday that you killed Undying Underworld Emperor. Currently, the atmosphere in the entire Realm Heart Great Land has completely changed. Previously, I did not dare to imagine that the Realm Heart Great Land would turn into what it is today. Emperor Summer chuckled. Even this person is called an old devil? He is even being chased after by others. What do you mean it was just yesterday? It has been more than 200 billion years. Dongbua Shuiying could not help but retort. To Emperor Summer, it might be a short period, but to him, Dongbua Shuiying, it was a relatively long period. 200 billion years. That was sufficient for many generations of primal chaos geniuses to rise. Currently, the number of sentient beings in the Realm Heart Great Land was much more than in the past. Because a small city was relatively safe, it was rare to see even primal chaos devils. 200 billion years is indeed a short period. Emperor Summer sighed. But speaking of which, I quite like this world. The 37th chapter, On the Road, began. The new chapter had just begun, and one had to spend more time thinking and preparing. Chapter 1270. I like this kind of world as well. Dongbua Shuiying stood at the top of the mountain, looking at the vast world around him with a smile on his face. In the past, he had wanted to change the entire world so that demons could no longer run amok. Even he himself had thought that this goal was too far away. In fact, there weren't many who thought highly of him. At that time, the experts in Realm Heart Great Land were already used to the order of that era. They were used to how Final Realm experts were free and unfettered, and nobody could threaten them. However, everything changed. But do you see the danger behind us? Emperor Xia asked. Hidden danger? Dongbua Shuiying was taken aback. Population. Although the rate at which cultivators reproduce is very slow, and, generally speaking, it is safer to live within cities. Cities have limited space as well. However, after 200 billion years, more and more cities were being built, and the number of cultivators was also increasing. The burden on the Realm Heart Great Land is getting bigger and bigger. According to what I know, the Realm Heart Great Land is different from other origin worlds. Other origin worlds would experience a great apocalypse, and everything would return to the beginning. But the Realm Heart Great Land is created by Yuan. It is an eternal existence, and it would not be destroyed by the Great Apocalypse. Nevertheless, the population keeps increasing, and it is impossible for the Realm Heart Great Land to withstand it indefinitely. Dongbua Shuiying nodded yes. Now that 200 billion years have passed, the additional burden is still within the scope that the Realm Heart Great Land can endure. But as this continues, there will be a day when the Realm Heart Great Land retaliates. Emperor Summer said, or perhaps Yuan has set a new law. Regardless, he will definitely suppress the population of the entire Realm Heart Great Land. Yuan has set the rules. He won't massacre everyone directly. Dongbua Shuiying said. For instance, the Realm Heart God Palace prepared opportunities and supreme graded secret treasures for the final realm cultivators. Clearly, Yuan still left plenty of opportunities for the weak. The Xia Emperor nodded slightly. The 2 of them did not say anything else, because they could not tell what Yuan would do. Perhaps it would be more merciful, such as directly changing the rules and making it much more difficult for cultivators to reproduce. It was naturally difficult to expand the population like this. It could also be even crueler, where the strong preyed on the weak. Everything was possible. Let's go. The 2 of them immediately vanished into thin air. In the Fan Clan Magic Mountain. Teacher, I flipped through the scriptures within the clan, and know that our Fan Clan has the Burning Heart God Tree. It is of great help to those who cultivate in the Tao of Soul. Currently, I am just a step away from breaking through to the cosmos god realm. Is it possible for me to cultivate under the burning heart god tree? A young man asked the black-robed old man by his side. Heart-burning divine tree? The black-robed old man glared at him. My fan clan is currently benefiting from that monarch faciua. Our treasures and opportunities have increased by quite a bit. How about this? I will send you to the illusion demon hall. As for the burning heart god tree, you can forget about it. The youth hastily said, Why? I flipped through the books, and it was recorded in the books that ever since the patriarch created the non-phase mystical technique under the burning heart divine tree, he rarely used the burning heart divine tree to cultivate. The disciples in the clan should be able to exchange for it, but I couldn't find this item on the exchange scroll. That's right, the black-robed old man said. Now, that Imperial Emperor Faciua is cultivating under the burning heart divine tree. Emperor Faciua? The youth's eyes widened. Monarch Faciua. Currently, his influence in Realm Heart Great Land was too huge. He was publicly acknowledged as the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. That was someone who forcefully climbed to the top after killing the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, Undying Underworld Emperor. It made unparalleled existences and ordinary final realm cultivators tremble in fear. Many cultivators worshipped this monarch Faciua. For instance, the Summer Wind Ancient Nation had a good relationship with monarch Faciua, allowing them to obtain many benefits. Currently, their reputation was even stronger than the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation. Do you understand now? I'll send you to the Illusion Demon Hall. As for the Burning Heart God Tree, don't think about it temporarily. Wait until that monarch Faciua leaves. By then, you'll have a chance. The black-robed old man persuaded. Teacher, you said that monarch Faciua is in our fan clan Magic Mountain? I have been living here, yet I did not know about it. The young man was incredibly excited. Teacher, can I pay a visit to him? When he was young, he had grown up listening to the stories of this monarch Faciua. Pay a visit? Monarch Faciua is currently meditating and cultivating. Do you think we can disturb him? The black-robed old man snorted. Old Ancestor has already ordered us not to disturb him. Oh. The young man felt his heart itching when he heard that. Teacher, can you tell me where is the Burning Heart God Tree? The young man asked. The black-robed old man shook his head with a smile. He pointed in a direction. Over there. The young man looked afar. His eyes were filled with excitement and expectation. Over there, over at the Fan Clan Magic Mountain, the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, Monarch Faciua, was currently cultivating there. In reality, the majority of Cosmos gods knew that Monarch Faciua had a close relationship with the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. For instance, Monarch Faciua and Emperor Summer would frequently discuss the Tao together. The two would occasionally drink wine together, and would occasionally appear at a certain location in Realm Heart Great Land to spar. The two of them were final realm experts in the Tao of Void. Furthermore, both of them had obtained a supreme graded secret impartation. Hence, it was of great help to the other when they interacted. For instance, the relationship between Monarch Faciua and Ancestor Fan had long been known. Ancestor Fan had even deliberately spread the news to let all Cosmos gods know that Monarch Faciua had an avatar cultivating on the Fan Clan Magic Mountain. This made many Cosmos gods feel envious and jealous because they desired to interact with this Monarch Faciua. Because Monarch Faciua was not only powerful, his influence in Broken Teeth Mountain Range was huge, and he had many treasures and opportunities. Did they not see how Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, and Emperor Song benefiting from this? Did they not see how Southern Cloud King could walk unhindered? Did they not see how Old Mothering Shan had broken through to the Cosmos God Realm? Who, under the Burning Heart God Tree, a white-robed Dongbua Shuet Ying sat cross-legged. The violet leaves were drifting down with the wind. He opened his eyes. They were filled with a strand of regret. I still haven't succeeded. Dongbua Shuet Ying muttered to himself. That time when I observed the thousand-eyed water droplet was too short. If I could comprehend it thoroughly, I might have created the third Tao of Mirage, an illusory realm killing technique. Such a long period. He had already explored the sky-floating islands with the mysterious eyes in Broken Teeth mountain range. He had also memorized the structure of the illusory realm world within those mysterious eyes. That time, he finally comprehended the first Tao of Mirage, an illusory realm killing technique according to the structure of the illusory realm world of the gray eyes, resplendent illusory realm. Because the golden eyes had scoured through the entire place, 80 billion years after he killed Undying Underworld Emperor, he created the second Tao of Mirage, an illusory realm killing technique. Illusory realm killing intent. Just as I expected, these two killing techniques can't be used against a single enemy at the same time. Donghua Shui shook his head. The resplendent illusory realm was used to lure the enemy into falling into oblivion. The illusory realm killing intent was used to destroy the soul of the enemy. Even if it could not kill the enemy, it would injure them. The two were entirely different illusory realms. The soul of the enemy could only enter the same illusory realm at the same time. Unless my illusory realm could contain both resplendent and killing intent at the same time. But that is too difficult. Donghua Shui wanted to see the thousand-eyed water droplet again, because the structure of the thousand-eyed water droplet was a vast thousand-eyed world. Great Emperor North River. When Donghua Shui thought of this, he felt slightly unwilling. If he had the thousand-eyed water droplet, he might have created the third killing technique. The third killing technique was a perfect fusion of the previous two killing techniques. He might even be able to reach the final realm in the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm. Of course, it might not be that easy to reach the final realm. He had to overcome many obstacles, but at least by creating it, his understanding of the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm would deepen by another level. But all of this was destroyed. This great Emperor North River has entered the Snake Tooth Corridor and never returned. Donghua Shui thought, is he afraid of me taking revenge? That is why he is staying inside. As long as the energy within the thousand-eyed water droplet is exhausted, he would have to come out. Otherwise, he would never come out. Even if he came out, the thousand-eyed water droplet would most likely dissipate because of the energy within it being exhausted. Thousand-eyed water droplet. During these years, Donghua Shui had visited many sky-floating islands, yet he had never obtained a single thousand-eyed water droplet or snake-tooth bead. In history, it was hard to obtain these two supreme treasures. Most of them were obtained by the 5 great supremes. Previously at the Black Leaf Lake, there was only a suppression directed at the soul. There were no other dangers. That was why he could obtain a thousand-eyed water droplet. Am I not fated to obtain another thousand-eyed water droplet? Forget it. Even if I don't, I can still create one. Perhaps this way, I can deepen my understanding of the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm. Donghua Shui could only console himself. He calmed himself down and continued cultivating, pondering over how to fuse the two killing techniques of the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm. Chapter 1271. Feishua's City, Monarch Residence. Under a pavilion by the lake, Donghua Shui and Emperor Summer were seated opposite each other. The two were currently discussing about Tao. The chaotic origin refinement body is something I created. Younger brother Feishua, you must believe me. Emperor Summer anxiously said, using the chaotic origin dimension as the mother to nurture and condense a fleshy body. I believe the moment it is formed, it would become a fleshy body at the chaotic origin life form level. This Tao is the true Tao. We have tried many times. Furthermore, I feel that if we want to take a single step from the final realm to directly possess a fleshy body at the chaotic origin level, or even become a chaotic origin life form, isn't it too easy to become a chaotic origin? Donghua Shui added, I feel that it isn't that easy to break through using force. I don't think it is easy. Using the chaotic origin dimension as the mother to nurture and condense a fleshy body is inherently difficult. I hope that brother Feishua can help me. The two of us can study this Tao together. Emperor Summer said, using the dimension as the mother, this first step is something I can't take. Dongbua Shueing shook his head. Emperor Summer, you and I will walk our own path. Let's see who can ultimately create the true third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. Emperor Summer could not help but shake his head when he heard that. During these 200 billion years, the two of them frequently discussed about Tao. What they talked about the most was the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body in the chaotic origin Tao scroll. This cultivation technique was originally created by Emperor Summer. It's a pity that Emperor Summer had only created the first two levels of the chaotic origin refinement body. Dongbua Shueing had a supreme secret importation, chaotic origin 7 strikes. He had many unique techniques to fuse the Tao of void and chaotic origin energy. Hence, he had already perfected the original foundation of Emperor Summer. After reaching the final realm, he even wanted to create the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. Furthermore, ever since he created his soul-killing technique, his soul had influenced his fleshy body. This gave him some direction to improve his fleshy body. The two of them had gained a lot from their exchange. Because Emperor Summer had a supreme secret impartation that was also related to the Tao of Void, Void Blossom. Dongbua Shueying's supreme secret impartation was the chaotic origin 7 strikes. It was a perfect match with the chaotic origin weapon Azure River Spear. The two of them had different supreme secret impartations. Moreover, neither of them could leak their supreme secret impartations, so they could only clash with each other in terms of their train of thought. They communicated for a long time. The two of them were still fine at the start. They had even created the initial version of the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. This was an imperfect version. Even if it was incomplete, it still allowed their fleshy bodies to reach a level comparable to Grand Perfection Kings. In other words, just by relying on their fleshy bodies, they had the strength of unparalleled existences like Eternal Night Primogenitor. Because they had created the first edition, the two of them were full of fighting spirit and saw the hope of jumping out of the cage. The two of them often communicated and studied together. However, gradually there were still disagreements, and the divergence was getting bigger and bigger. How difficult is this path? If I walk alone, how will I be able to break through it? If the two of us work together, you and I might be able to break through together. Emperor Summer sighed. He discovered that Dongbua Shueying's talent was incredibly high. He was able to find many breakthroughs in the body cultivation aspect. If he, Emperor Summer, were to explore by himself, even though he had the supreme secret impartation, Void Flower Blossom, he could achieve the first step of using the chaotic origin dimension as the womb. But condensing a fleshy body was the hardest step. He did not have the confidence to do so. He wanted to pull Dongbua Shueying along with him on this path. But Dongbua Shueying clearly wanted to walk on a path he was confident of. We have sufficient time to walk our own paths. If I fail in the future, I'll try the path you, Emperor Summer, pointed out. Dongbua Shueying chuckled. His talent in body cultivation was not that high. It was only after he created the Tao of Mirage, an illusory realm killing technique, that his soul underwent a qualitative change that allowed his fleshy body to evolve. His soul was strong. It also influenced his fleshy body, and these influences allowed Dongbua Shueying to see the direction he could take to break through and perfect it. The two of them temporarily put down their differences. They continued discussing about their understanding of the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. Amen. Suddenly, Dongbua Shueying stopped. He looked afar. What is it? Emperor Summer felt puzzled. It was not convenient for him to forcefully investigate within Feishua City. A guest has arrived. Dongbua Shueying chuckled. A figure condensed in the distance. It was a tall and thin male in white robes. That tall and thin male descended. He bowed respectfully. Jafu greets Monarch Feishua. You are? Dongbua Shueying asked. He could recognize with a glance that this was an expert native of Broken Teeth Mountain Range. But he did not know who he was. After all, he was just an initial emperor. There were many of them in Broken Teeth Mountain Range, and he was not famous. I am an attendant under Supreme, Vast Ancient. The tall and thin male chuckled. I am here under the orders of Supreme, Vast Ancient to invite Monarch. Supreme, Vast Ancient. Dongbua Ying was startled. I wonder what matter Supreme, Vast Ancient has for me. This I do not know. Is Supreme, Vast Ancient who ordered me to invite Monarch? The tall and thin male said. Supreme, Vast Ancient wishes to see you. Why haven't you gone yet? The Xia Emperor laughed. Fine. Dongbua Ying nodded. He immediately created a clone, which said to the tall and thin male, Let's go. Let's go see the autarch. He immediately used the Great World Break teleportation technique and arrived at the borders of the vast ancient world. Dongbua Ying and the tall and thin male, Jia Fu, appeared. Jia Fu glanced at the surroundings, then said, Monarch Feishu, please follow me. Supreme, Vast Ancient. Dongbua Ying pondered to himself. He had interacted with the 5 autarchs over the past 200 billion years. This was because he really wanted to comprehend the thousand-eyed water droplet. Most likely, only the 5 autarchs possessed such a supreme treasure that could allow them to enter the snake-tooth corridor. Thus, he went to visit them one by one. The 5 autarchs gave him face, and, at the very least, all of them met him. Unfortunately, when he mentioned that he wanted to comprehend the thousand-eyed water droplet without using up any of its energy, and even agreed to leave his clone in the autarch's cavernous state to do so, all 5 autarchs said that they did not have any thousand-eyed water droplets. When he had sought out Supreme, Vast Ancient, Supreme, Vast Ancient's temper had been quite good, and he had said, I do have a snake-tooth pearl, but I don't have a thousand-eyed water droplet. Throughout history, there have indeed been more snake-tooth pearls than thousand-eyed water droplets. To date, including the one you discovered, Monarch Feishu, there are only 3 publicly known thousand-eyed water droplets, and they have all been used up in the snake-tooth corridor. Swoosh, swoosh, the vast ancient shrine. As one of the 2 autarchs of the natives, Supreme, Vast Ancient's influence went without saying. This shrine was heavily guarded with many guards. But Dongbua Ying was unobstructed throughout his journey. Those guards, and even god generals, were relatively respectful towards Dongbua Ying. They knew that this Monarch Feishu was not only powerful in his soul technique, his close combat strength was also ranked in the front amongst god generals. Greetings, Supreme. Dongbua Ying saw an existence in the distance. He immediately bowed. Monarch Feishu is here. Supreme, Vast Ancient sat there looking at the vast void. He pointed to a stone stool by the side. Come sit. Dongbua Ying walked over and sat down. At this moment, Supreme, Vast Ancient had completely concealed his aura. His expression was simple and cold. Being able to conceal his aura meant that he was very polite. Otherwise, if he released his aura, it would be like an incomparably horrifying fireball. Dongbua Ying would feel uncomfortable even with his current strength. After all, even though his fleshy body had a breakthrough, allowing him to reach the initial version of the 3rd level of chaotic origin refinement body, he was merely at grand perfection king realm. I wonder why Supreme is looking for me? Dongbua Ying asked, because he no longer had to rush to the sky-floating islands. Usually, he would not leave any avatars in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range. If there was anything, he could just ask his subordinates to look for him in Feishu City. I've mentioned before that I have a snake-tooth bead. Supreme, Vast Ancient said. Yes. Dongbua Ying nodded. Supreme, Vast Ancient flipped his hand, causing 2 smooth and round black beads to appear in his palm. These 2 black beads were incomparably deep and serene. It would attract the gaze of others into it. The more one looked at it, the more one would feel that these black beads were like a vast world that was devouring everything. Dongbua Ying was naturally able to stabilize his heart with his current strength. But he was still startled. He could not help but ask, 2 snake-tooth beads? Right, 2. Supreme, Vast Ancient nodded. I originally had 1 bead. I wasn't in a rush to visit the snake-tooth corridor since I've been there several times before. I wanted to make sufficient preparations before going again. However, I didn't expect that just a few days ago, when I was exploring some sky-floating islands, I would come across another snake-tooth bead. Congratulations, Supreme Vast Ancient, Dongbua Shuang said. Some sky-floating islands were indeed filled with great dangers that he could not enter, but Supreme Vast Ancient had a chance to do so. Snake-tooth beads and thousand-eyed water droplets were generally located in extremely dangerous places. I can give you one of these snake-tooth beads. Supreme Vast Ancient looked at Dongbua Shuang. You're giving me such a supreme treasure for no reason at all? Dongbua Shuang smiled as he looked at the Supreme Vast Ancient, but in his heart, he began to feel nervous. Who wouldn't want to enter the snake-tooth corridor? Supreme Vast Ancient continued. You must enter the snake-tooth corridor with me. Once inside, you must listen to all of my instructions. Supreme Vast Ancient, please tell me what I need to do. Dongbua Shuang wasn't angry at all. It would be strange if Supreme Vast Ancient didn't have strict requirements for giving him such a supreme treasure. But no matter what, entering the legendary forbidden area of the Snake-Tooth Corridor was a cause for celebration. Chapter 1272, Emperor Feishua. What you need to do is very simple, Autark Vast Ancient said. Follow me into the Snake-Tooth Corridor. After that, you must listen to my instructions. You cannot act on your own. But don't worry. The Snake-Tooth Corridor is filled with many dangerous areas that require the protection of the Snake-Tooth Pearls. Once the energy within the Snake-Tooth Pearls is used up to a certain point, I'll have to return. If I can't return to the Broken Teeth Mountains before the pearls run out of energy, I won't be able to return. Dongbua Shuang understood this. The Snake-Tooth Corridor was incredibly dangerous, especially the whirlpools at the entrance and exit. There was no way to resist them on one's own. One had to rely on the power of the Snake-Tooth Pearls or the thousand-eyed water droplets. One had to rely on the power of the Snake-Tooth Pearls to enter and exit. If the Snake-Tooth Pearls ran out of energy on the way out, they would probably lose their lives to the whirlpools of the corridor. That's why I have to return when the Snake-Tooth Pearls have roughly 30% of their energy remaining. Autark Vast Ancient smiled as he looked at Dongbua Shuang. You, however, are different. You have many clones, and you can continue to roam the Snake-Tooth corridors until the Snake-Tooth Pearls run out of energy. Even if your clone doesn't return, it won't affect you, right? Dongbua Shuang nodded. Before I return, you have to listen to my instructions. Once I return, you'll be free to roam the corridors, Autark Vast Ancient said. Do you agree to my request? Haha, the Autark is willing to gift me a supreme treasure like the Snake-Tooth Pearls in exchange for sending a clone to help me. To me, the more the better. Dongbua Shuang laughed loudly. Autark Vast Ancient instantly revealed a smile. He felt that Emperor Feishua probably wouldn't refuse, but he was also afraid that Feishua would be too arrogant and unwilling to listen to orders. How many of my clones do I need to enter? Dongbua Shuang asked. A single clone is enough, Autark Vast Ancient explained. The Snake-Tooth Pearls can only protect a single clone. Understood. Dongbua Shuang nodded. He had countless clones. It was a minor matter if one of his clones dissipated in the Snake-Tooth corridors. Being able to go in for a trip was exactly what he wished for. Before gifting the Snake-Tooth bead to Imperial Monarch Feishua, please swear an oath, Imperial Monarch Feishua. Autark Vast Ancient said. He did not dare to easily trust Dongbua Shuang for such a supreme treasure. All right, Dongbua Shuang was straightforward and immediately swore an oath. Autark Vast Ancient was in a good mood as well. He knew that cultivators still attached great importance to oaths. Autark Vast Ancient had long since made his preparations, while Dongbua Shuang had merely sent a clone. There was no need for him to make any preparations at all. On the same day, the two of them set off for the Snake-Tooth Corridor. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them directly arrived near that terrifying black maelstrom in the Snake-Tooth Corridor. The tearing force of the maelstrom was too strong. The rumbling and ripples it produced made Donghua Shui Ying's heart tremble slightly. Just the sound alone was not enough, but the unseen ripples formed by the maelstrom were able to penetrate through the fleshy body and soul, causing fear to rise in Donghua Shui Ying's heart. Looking up at that incomparably towering snakehead that was the size of the territory of Southern Cloud Nation, a terrifying, chaotic origin life form with strength close to the level of Yuan. Even if it has died for an unknown period of time, its remnant might is still so unfathomable. Terrifying, truly terrifying. Furthermore, the head of an ordinary snake would only occupy a small portion of its body. Even if this chaotic origin life form's body proportions are different from ordinary snakes, the proportion of its body occupied by the snake head should still be small. If the snake head is so huge, how big would its body be? The snake head was as big as the Southern Cloud Nation. How long would its body be? Even though this summer wind ancient nation seemed huge, much bigger than the Southern Cloud Nation, that was in terms of surface area. In terms of the length of the nation, it was merely a few times bigger. The length of the body of this snake was likely much longer than the territory of the summer wind ancient nation. Who is that? Supreme Vast Ancient? Monarch Feishue? There were also observers arranged by the 5 great supremes around the Snake Tooth Corridor. They soon discovered Donghua Shui Ying and Supreme Vast Ancient. One was a supreme, and the other was the famous Monarch Feishue. These observers naturally did not dare to disturb them. Every time I look at it from a close distance, it feels incomparably shocking. Supreme Vast Ancient said, "This innate chaotic origin life form has an unfathomably huge body. As for Yuan and other chaotic origin experts, they started off weak and small. Their bodies might be comparable to us, yet they're so strong that they are much stronger than this terrifying, chaotic origin life form in front of us. Just thinking about it makes me feel envious." Donghua Shui nodded. "Go, let us enter." Supreme Vast Ancient said, "Don't worry. As we get closer to the Snake Tooth Corridor, the energy within the Snake Tooth bead will naturally be activated." So. The two of them rapidly flew towards the black maelstrom. As they flew closer, Donghua Shui felt the snake tooth bead in his bosom, causing some unique changes. At that moment, the snake tooth bead began emitting a faint black light. This black light revolved around the surface of Donghua Shui Ying's body, and the surface of Supreme Vast Ancient's body was similarly covered by a faint black light. They have entered. Supreme Vast Ancient and Monarch Feishue have both entered the Snake Tooth Corridor. The observers watching from afar were incredibly startled. It was fine for Supreme Vast Ancient to enter, but even Monarch Feishue had entered the Snake Tooth Corridor. The observers sent by the other 4 Supremes immediately transmitted the news to the Supremes of the various clans. The news spread. Many Supremes received the news. They have all entered. Monarch Feishue has also entered the Snake Tooth Corridor. Since they entered together, it seems Supreme Vast Ancient has given Monarch Feishue a token of entry. Is Supreme Vast Ancient planning to investigate the consciousness region this time? Supreme Thunder Firmament could not help but frown when he received the news. This Vast Ancient fellow, he actually has 2 supreme treasures of entry. His luck is truly amazing. The other 4 Supremes were all envious. The Snake-Tooth Pearl and the Thousand-Eyed Water Droplet were both very difficult to obtain. Obtaining one was one thing, but obtaining 2 was simply too difficult. Supreme Vast Ancient had a Snake-Tooth Pearl to begin with. He had just wanted to make ample preparations before entering. Who would have thought that during this period of time, Donghua Shui Ying would first rise to prominence, and then Supreme Vast Ancient would be lucky enough to obtain a Snake-Tooth Pearl? And so, this trip was made possible. The other Supremes could only feel envious. Rumble, explosions rang out incessantly. As soon as they flew into the vortex of darkness, they were immediately torn apart, unable to control their bodies. All they could do was be swept into the vortex. Fortunately, their bodies were protected by the black light. Although this black light seemed thin, No matter how the outside world tore at it, it was unable to break through. However, Dongbua Shuang could sense that the vast energy contained within the snake-tooth pearl was slowly being consumed. Swoosh! Supreme, vast, ancient, and Dongbua Shuang could only follow the devouring force and follow the flow. They rapidly fell into the snake-tooth corridor. As they advanced within the vortex, even space was distorted and shattered. Their speed was incredibly fast, but the interior of this snake's bloody mouth was simply too huge. After all, the entire snake-tooth head was comparable to the territory of the Southern Cloud Nation. Just by being swept along, it lasted for an hour before the tearing force of the vortex began decreasing. Very soon, both Supreme Vast Ancient and Dongbua Shuang regained control of their bodies. Are we currently in the mouth of a snake? Dongbua Shuang looked around. With a glance, he saw an enormous snake tooth in the distance. The snake tooth was emitting a terrifying aura. Don't stay here for too long. The wind here is exhausting the energy of the snake-tooth pearl. Supreme Vast Ancient urged, continue forward. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Actually, as the power of the vortex decreased, the consumption of the snake-tooth pearl was much lower. But clearly, Supreme Vast Ancient cared about every bit of energy. So, Supreme Vast Ancient brought Dongbua Shuang along as they flew at high speed into the mouth of the snake. They had to fly for a long time before they could fly past an enormous snake tooth. This tooth was taller than the mountains in Realm Heart Great Land. Where are we going? Dongbua Shuang asked. You just have to follow me. You'll know when we reach there. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled. He was clearly familiar with this place. He had been here several times before. Along the way, he was not willing to waste any energy. He brought Dongbua Shuang along at high speed. Chapter 1273. Every snake tooth was as tall as a towering mountain. They emitted an endless, austere aura that instilled fear in Dongbua Shuang's heart. This was normal too. The snake teeth were originally the weapons these terrifying, chaotic origin life forms used against their enemies. Why was the Broken Teeth mountain range named Broken Teeth? It was because there was a broken tooth in this vast mountain range. That was also the tallest mountain peak in Realm Heart Great Land. This Broken Tooth mountain peak was rumored to have injured that tooth of Yuan. That was why Yuan chose to do so. Dongbua Shuang discovered the transformation too. Under the lead of Supreme Vast Ancient, he flew at high speed. They had already passed by 8 snake teeth. On the left, there were 2 rows of snake teeth. On the right, there were also 2 rows of snake teeth. In other words, there were a total of 4 rows of snake teeth in the mouth of this snake. Currently, only 8 teeth had flown past them. One could see how slow they were. The first 8 teeth are emitting a dark aura that makes others palpitate. And this snake tooth in front of me is giving off an endless feeling of sharpness. Dongbua Shuang watched with bewilderment. Looking afar, there was a towering, huge tooth. Further ahead, there was another tooth with a sharper shape. The aura it emitted was entirely different too. As they flew, Dongbua Shuang discovered that the aura of every 8 teeth would change once. Even the shape of some teeth would change. After flying for half a day, he saw more than 80 snake teeth. That is, Dongbua Shuang's eyes brightened. There was a new towering black snake tooth that appeared in the distance. Yet there were many void cracks around it. Dao void. He sensed it. This newly appeared snake tooth contained the fundamental usage of the Dao void. Furthermore, it was at a higher level. For a moment, Dongbua Shuang felt an itch in his heart. He wanted to go closer and explore. Monarch Feishue, I know you have reached the final realm in the Dao Void. The nearby autarch, Vast Ancient, glanced off into the distance as well. He sent mentally, these 8 snake fangs do indeed contain many mysteries of the Dao of Void, as well as many opportunities within them. However, entering them will require the energy of the snake tooth pearls. You'd better follow me obediently. It won't be too late for you to come back after I return. Don't worry. Since we have an agreement, and I have sworn an oath, I will not go back on my word, Dongbua Shuang said. It's good that you understand. Supreme Vast Ancient didn't say anything else. Actually, he understood what the opportunities within Snake Tooth corridors signified for a cultivator. That was why he intentionally warned them. He could not afford to waste his energy for Dongbua Shuang. 8 void snake fangs. Really, as Dongbua Shuang flew, the more he looked, the more tempted he felt. In fact, even from afar, he could vaguely sense something. Once I'm done accompanying Autark Vast Ancient, I'll definitely come back to investigate this place. So, the two of them continued flying, not counting the snake fangs that they could not see clearly in the dark vortex. After flying past a total of 120 snake fangs, Dongbua, Shuang, and the others finally reached a fork in the road. A fork continued forward, and another fork led upwards. Follow this way. The corridor was very wide. It was growing calmer and calmer. Every so often, a wild wind would blow past them, causing the power of the snake-tooth pearls to be slightly depleted. Autark Vast Ancient and Dongbua Shuang continued to fly upwards, but Dongbua Shuang had a pensive look on his face. He immediately asked, Autark, when we entered, the power of that dark vortex was simply too terrifying. We were unable to control our bodies, much less fly. All we could do was follow in. How are we supposed to leave, then? There's no way we can go against the vortex and leave, right? Of course there's no way we can go against the vortex. The vortex is the entrance. We enter through the serpent's mouth. The exit is through the nostrils of the serpent, Autark Vast Ancient said with a laugh. The serpent's mouth forms a vortex that sucks in air, while its nostrils emit air outwards. It's just that the power of the vortex is obscured by it. So that's how it is. Dongbua Shuang nodded. To Emperor Feishue, there's probably no need for him to leave at all. Autark Vast Ancient laughed. That is, unless he obtains some sort of unique treasure that he wishes to bring out. The corridors were formed by the serpent's head, and there were many forked paths along the way. But of course, many of the nodes were very stable. In fact, there were some places that weren't affected by the winds at all. The power of the snake-tooth pearls wouldn't be depleted at all. As the corridor grew narrower and narrower, Dongbua Shuang couldn't help but ask, Where are we going? We're almost there. Autark Vast Ancient smiled. You'll know soon enough. Don't be too surprised. Surprised? Dongbua Shuang had no choice but to suppress his curiosity. Although the corridor was growing narrower and narrower, it was still more than 100 million kilometers wide. Still, compared to the size of the serpent's head, it was quite thin. In front of them was an enormous blood-colored membrane that blocked their path. Although it was called a blood-colored membrane, it was actually filled with countless streams of light that flowed through it like an enormous waterfall of blood. Let's go through it. Autark Vast Ancient was rather excited. Swoosh! The two charged straight through the blood-color membrane. The blood-color membrane did not obstruct them at all. Instead, a unique energy swept through their bodies. It was very unique. The blood-color membrane was also very thick. They flew for a few breaths of time before they completely penetrated through it. We're here. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled as he stopped. Shuang looked at the scene in front of him in shock. It was a vast space. Within this space, there were many veins that were emitting warm light. These veins intersected with each other. There were also several hundred huge light lumps scattered within this space. Every light lump was connected by a vein. Even though the light lumps were huge, there were still differences in size between them. Where is this? Dongbua Shuang felt puzzled. According to the distance they flew, he deduced, is this the snake brain? The snake brain is much bigger than this space. More accurately speaking, this should be the consciousness of this terrifying, chaotic origin life form. Supreme Vast Ancient said. Consciousness? Dongbua Shuang was startled. The consciousness of a life form would always be the most unique. Go, let us first head to the first light lumps. Supreme Vast Ancient was filled with anticipation. He brought Dongbua Shuang along as they continued flying. The veins in the consciousness were even thinner. Even though the two of them were flying through the thickest vein, it was merely 500,000 kilometers wide. The veins had intersecting nodes too, but at the nodes, it was extremely quiet. There was no invasion from the black wind. That's right, within the consciousness, there were still black winds howling and invading the bodies of Donghua, Shui, Ying, and the others. After flying for a moment, only then did Autark Vast Ancient stop at a certain node. He pointed at a ball of light in front of him. I'll wait for you here. Continue forward. Enter that ball of light. I can sense that ball of light calling out to me, drawing me in. But every light lump in the consciousness of the snake has a suppressive force on the soul. Some are strong and some are weak. I can't enter this light lump in front of me. Its level of suppression is comparable to the black leaf lake. I believe you should be able to enter. Oh. Donghua Shui Ying was enlightened. The light lump in the consciousness had a suppressive force on the soul. No wonder the other party asked him to come. Remember what you said in the oath. Listen to my orders. Supreme Vast Ancient said, after you enter, bring out everything you can bring out. If you hide anything or don't do your best to bring it out, you will be violating the oath. Supreme Vast Ancient reminded him again. The reason why he gave a snake tooth bead to Donghua Shui Ying was for the other party to help him. All right, Supreme can be rest assured. By then, you can search my body after I come out. Donghua Shui Ying chuckled. What a joke. How could some external objects make him violate the oath? Even a chaotic origin weapon was not qualified to make him violate the oath. After all, the moment he violated the oath, his cultivation path would most likely be severed. Shui Ying flew along the thinner meridian pathway towards the light ball in front of him. Hoo. The black wind was also howling. As it blew on his body, a thin layer of black light easily resisted against it. It's just that the energy in the snake tooth bead was being consumed at an extremely slow pace. When he was just 500,000 kilometers away, he could already feel a suppressive force on his soul. As he got closer, this suppressive force on his soul rapidly increased. I do want to see what exactly is within this light lump. Donghua Shui Ying curiously flew over. Chapter 1274. The pressure is quite strong. Donghua Shui Ying advanced through the passageway, the sphere of light growing larger and larger in his field of vision. The pressure emanating from it caused even Donghua Shui Ying to feel quite uncomfortable. Autark Vast Ancient stood at the node of the passageway, staring nervously at it. I have to go in. Of the many spheres of light in my sea of consciousness, this one is calling out to me the loudest. He had paid the price of a snake-tooth pearl to allow Donghua Shui Ying to enter, and this sphere of light was his primary target. I'm in. A look of delight appeared on Autark Vast Ancient's face. Whoosh! Donghua Shui Ying charged headfirst into the enormous sphere of light, entering it. This is a sphere of light. A look of surprise appeared on Donghua Shui Ying's face. This sphere of light was billions of kilometers in size, and within it floated a series of solidified fragments of the world. There were 7 of them, each of them resembling enormous pieces of paper, each of which contained a terrifying source of heat. Each of the 7 fragments contained a dazzling, eye-catching object. There was a black dagger. There was a world fragment with the black dagger at the center. There was also a blazing ball of deep blue flame with the blue flame at the center. Which one should I go to? Donghua Shui Ying could sense that these fragments were filled with danger. This one with the black dagger. Donghua Shui Ying instantly made up his mind. This was the only one of the 7 fragments that had a weapon at the center of it. Swoosh! Donghua Shui Ying flew straight towards the world fragment. As he flew closer, the enormous paper-like world fragment quickly sucked him into it. I'm in. Donghua Shui Ying felt his vision blur as he found himself standing atop an enormous wasteland. The wasteland was filled with countless black-armored soldiers, and in the very center of the wasteland was a towering throne. Seated atop the throne was a black-armored, caped figure who was toying with a black dagger in his hands. His gaze was fixed on Dongbua Ying from afar, causing Dongbua Ying to feel a stifling pressure. Kill! All of the black armored soldiers were originally standing still like statues, but when Dongbua Ying descended, all of them turned to look at Dongbua Ying. Like a tidal wave, the black armored soldiers all turned into streams of light and attacked. The light rays shrouded the sky, surrounding Dongbua Ying from all directions. Destroy! Standing on the desolate plains, facing countless black armored soldiers, Dongbua Ying instantly unleashed a mirage and illusory realm killer move. Bang! The illusion instantly enveloped every corner of the world fragment, including the throne. The illusory realm attacked the black armored soldiers one by one, and the effect of this move was extremely good. Countless black armored soldiers dissipated like bubbles. In a short period of time, other than Dongbua Ying, there were only 13 figures left. Apart from the black armored and cloaked figure sitting on the throne, there were 12 taller black armored generals who were still in good condition. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. These 12 were able to resist the illusions and were clearly much stronger. Bang, bang, bang. All of them attacked with daggers, and their attacks were strange and unfathomable, even surpassing Dongbua Ying's understanding. His defensive methods were completely useless. Those daggers were like phantoms that pierced through his defenses and directly attacked his body. However, the black light protecting his body tenaciously blocked these attacks. I'm afraid that even if a sovereign came, he would not be able to resist them with his own strength. Dongbua Ying's expression changed slightly. Right at this moment, Dongbua Ying was shocked to discover that countless black armored soldiers had appeared on the desolate plains far away. They appeared again after being destroyed. Dongbua Ying quickly used his movement technique. The movement techniques of Void Dao experts were also incredible. The attacks of the 12 black armored generals were clearly strange and powerful, but their movement techniques were very clumsy. Dongbua Ying executed his illusions, sweeping through the countless black armored soldiers. At the same time, he used his movement technique to pounce towards the black armored figure on the throne. After all, his target was the black dagger that the black armored figure was playing with. That dagger was emitting a majestic energy, and it should be the origin of this world fragment. South, the black armored soldiers dissipated like bubbles and were soon reborn. And those black armored generals were constantly being shaken off by Dongbua Ying. Dongbua Ying relied on the black light, protecting his body to forcefully block them. Hand it over. Dongbua Ying charged towards the throne. His figure was like a specter as a myriad of figures appeared. Every figure was real, just that they existed on a different plane of space. The myriad of figures pounced towards the throne at the same time. Boom! The black armored figure played with the dagger. Finally, he laughed coldly as he brandished the black dagger in his hand. Sila! A dagger slashed across Dongbua Ying. Boom! Dongbua Ying only felt his consciousness rumble. By the time he woke up, he discovered that his body was already outside the world fragment. That strike had blasted him out. I'm out. Dongbua Ying sensed for a moment, and his expression changed. That strike actually consumed so much of my snake tooth beads energy. Although that strike with the dagger had saved his life by relying on the black light protecting his body, it had consumed an enormous amount of energy. It was roughly 1% of the snake tooth bead's energy. He looked at the world fragment in front of him. The world fragment was still a blur. The only thing he could see was the most dazzling source of the world fragment, that black dagger. As for those soldiers, generals, and black armored figures, they could not be seen clearly from the outside world. What's going on with those soldiers? Why are they still reborn after being killed so many times? That black armored figure is also ridiculously strong. Dongbua Ying muttered to himself. But before he entered, Supreme Vast Ancient had reminded him that anything could happen within the world of light in his sea of consciousness. As long as he, Dongbua Ying, could successfully bring the item out, it would be a huge success. Let's enter again. Dongbua Shui Ying attempted to enter the world fragment of the Black Dagger once more. Rumble. After entering the world fragment, he once more descended upon the desolate plains. What appeared before him was still the same countless black-armored soldiers, as well as the black-armored figure who was fiddling with the black dagger on the distant mountain throne. It was as though nothing had changed. The gazes of all the figures landed on Dongbua Shuang. Clearly, they were about to launch another attack. Let's go. Dongbua Shuang chose to give up without hesitation. Given his attainments in the Tao of space, he was able to easily leave this world fragment. The world fragment of the Black Dagger is too dangerous. Dongbua Shuang glanced at the other 6 world fragments. His gaze landed on one of the enormous world fragments. The source of this world fragment was a fiery red feather. Dongbua Shuang guessed that it would be relatively easier. He made his decision based purely on instinct. South, he directly flew towards the world fragment of the fiery feather and was once again absorbed into it. This was also a world fragment. The borders of the world were filled with nothingness, and in the center of the world was a gigantic tree. At the top of the tree floated a fiery red feather, and 3 birds were circling around it. On top of the gigantic tree, there were also a large number of birds resting. Similarly, the moment Dongbua Shuang entered the world fragment, all the birds turned their heads to look at Dongbua Shuang. Their eyes were filled with savagery and rage. In an instant, an ear-piercing screech rang out. Formless ripples spread out, causing the black radiance on the surface of Dongbua Shuang's body to tremble slightly. At the same time, the energy of the snake-tooth bead was also being depleted. Destroy. Shuang immediately unleashed his mirage and illusory realm, directly enveloping this broken world. At that moment, the birds on that huge tree all dissipated with a PU sound under the illusory realm, leaving behind only the 3 birds that were clearly stronger than the other 3 flying around the fiery red feather. There are only 3 birds left, and there's no one controlling this feather? From the looks of it, it seems to be slightly easier than the Black Dagger's world fragment. Dongbua Shuang muttered to himself. At the very least, there were a total of 13 existences in that world fragment that could still exist under his illusory realm. This world fragment seemed to be slightly weaker. Chapter 1275. Only 3 flying beasts circling around the fiery red feather were left. The 3 flying beasts stopped and stared at Dongbua Shuang. Among them, the largest green flying beast let out an ear-piercing screech. Screech. Ripples that could be seen with the naked eye swept out in the direction of Shui Ying in a fan shape. They were rapidly expanding, and in a blink of an eye, they had swept across about 20% to 30% of this world fragment. Naturally, Shuang was also affected, even though the black protective light around his body isolated the ripples. Just hearing the sound was unbearable. South, the other 2 flying beasts turned into streams of light and charged over. The large green flying beast stopped beside the fiery red feather to protect it. Pung pung. The flying speed of these 2 birds was unfathomably fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived right in front of Shuang. Shuang did not have the time to evade before he was slapped by the birds and sent flying far away. At the same time, Shui Ying's body immediately turned into a myriad of figures. He began executing his Tao of void techniques to confuse his opponents. So, these 2 flying beasts continued to attack. They swept past all the figures and left none alive. Even though they were very fast, the thousands of figures were enough for Dongbua Shuang to dodge and execute some confusing techniques. Their techniques are very powerful, but they seem very stupid. Dongbua Shuang thought. Previously, his opponents in the Black Dagger world fragment were also very stupid. If he did not go, they would be like statues. Their attacks were also the same. South, Dongbua Shuang rapidly flew towards the fiery red feather. Those 2 flying beasts seemed to have woken up. They flashed and returned to the fiery red feather. They worked together with a large green flying beast to surround the fiery red feather and defend against all enemies. Bang, bang, bang. Both sides clashed. Dongbua Shui Ying relied on the prowess of the black protective light and tried to snatch the fiery red feather time and time again. As for the three flying beasts, they only needed to move within a small area. Although their attacks were clumsy, they were able to disrupt Dongbua Shui Ying's attacks. Try to confuse and divide them. Dongbua Shui Ying's heart ached. Every time it collided with his snake tooth bead, he would either split into many clones, teleport through the void, or even cast Mirage and Illusory Realm killer moves at the same time. After doing this hundreds of times, his arm expanded and he managed to grab hold of that fiery red feather. The moment he grabbed the feather, the broken world suddenly began to distort. It was as if a stone had been thrown into a calm lake, causing it to tremble. Along with the tremors, the fragmented world suddenly disappeared completely without a sound. It was like a dream. He disappeared just like that, without a trace. Dongbua Shui Ying stood in the void, holding the fiery red feather in his hand as he looked at the other 6 floating world fragments. The world fragment is gone, just like that. Dongbua Shui Ying mumbled to himself. Were those birds? Are they illusions? No, it can hurt me. Boom! Just as he was pondering, there was an invisible force within the light orb dimension that directly repelled Dongbua Shui Ying's body, repelling him out. Dongbua Shui Ying's body swayed as he stabilized himself and landed on the meridian pathway. Ha ha ha, I'm out. Monarch face you, hurry, come to me. Far away, at the node of the meridian pathway, Supreme Vast Ancient saw Dongbua Shui Ying coming out. Especially when he saw the fiery red feather in Dongbua Shui Ying's hand, his eyes instantly lit up. He was incomparably excited as he hurriedly called out. When Dongbua Shui Ying heard it, he immediately flew towards Supreme Vast Ancient. Supreme, what's going on with this light orb dimension? Why is it so strange? Dongbua Shui Ying was extremely puzzled. At the same time, he lowered his head to look at the fiery red feather in his hand. The temperature of this fiery red feather was extremely terrifying. Fortunately, his body was protected by the black light. Hurry, give it to me, Supreme Vast Ancient urged. Here, Dongbua Shui Ying handed the feather over. Autark Vast Ancient accepted it, then carefully controlled the flow of the black light around his body to reveal his right hand. His right hand was completely unprotected, and he gently grabbed the fiery red feather. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Although the fiery red feather was extremely hot, Autark Vast Ancient's right hand was completely red and surrounded by flames. His right hand, however, was completely unharmed. Good, very good. What sort of majestic power is this? Supreme Vast Ancient was incomparably excited. The power of fire. Dongbua Shui Ying watched from the side. He didn't train in the Tao of fire, and although the auras of the black dagger and the fiery red feather in the light or dimension were extremely mysterious and unfathomable, Dongbua Shui Ying could tell that they were most likely related to the Tao of fire. Clearly, Supreme Vast Ancient was extremely excited and delighted. Supreme Vast Ancient waved his hand, placing the fiery red feather into his robes. He then smiled as he looked at Dongbua Shui Ying. Monarch face Yue, it's all thanks to you this time. If it were me, I wouldn't have been able to enter at all. Who would have thought that you would actually succeed in getting it? What exactly is the situation within the light orb dimension? Dongbua Shui Ying asked. Why is it so strange? I've faced some opponents who would be reborn after being destroyed. They might seem illusory, yet they are incredibly strong. I can't say for sure either. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled, but you should know about the sea of consciousness. Usually, our souls would cultivate within the sea of consciousness. And this huge snake is an incomparably terrifying, chaotic origin life form. Its sea of consciousness is even more unique and strange. It's just that it has already fallen and its soul dissipated. Nevertheless, this sea of consciousness is still incredibly mysterious. Sometimes it would hide some tangible items. At other times, there might even be some memory fragments. Dongbo Shui-ing nodded. But as long as you get any item within the light orb dimension, you will be expelled out. You can't enter the same light orb dimension anymore. Supreme Vast Ancient said, I guess this should be a rule set by Yuan, forbidding us from taking more. Amen. Dongbo Shui-ing nodded. Previously in that dimension, he vaguely felt that the strangest thing was that black dagger. It's a pity that the difficulty of obtaining it was too high. After all, that black-armored caped figure had directly grabbed hold of the black dagger and easily forced him out of the world fragment with a single strike. But Supreme, Dongbo Shui-ing said, only after I entered did I discover that encountering danger within the light orb dimension would rapidly consume the energy of my snake-tooth bead. You're waiting at the node while I'm risking my life inside. I would consume the energy of my snake-tooth bead even faster. Who knows, by the time you return, the energy of my snake-tooth bead would have been completely consumed. That way, I wouldn't be able to explore the places I wish to go. Isn't this slightly unfair? The vow had been set. Even if Supreme Vast Ancient did not return, he would still have to listen to his orders. But since he could talk, he would naturally have to do so. Supreme Vast Ancient was startled. He laughed out loud. Rest assured, you have already helped me obtain an important item. As long as you succeed in obtaining 2 more items, you can move freely. There's no need to care about me anymore. He was already very satisfied with obtaining 1 item. If he could obtain 3, that would be worth celebrating. Moreover, Supreme Vast Ancient also knew that entering the light orb dimension was not easy, as it would suppress one's soul. It was even harder to obtain items within it. In fact, some of the light orb dimensions didn't have any items at all, just some memory fragments. Very well. Dongbo Shui-ing nodded, a smile on his face. After obtaining 3 items, the Supreme Vast Ancient would allow him to move freely. That meant that he would abide by the oath and listen to the instructions of Supreme Vast Ancient. Come, let's go to the next location. Supreme Vast Ancient smiled. He had already made arrangements. They would go to the light orb dimensions one by one in order of importance. The two flew along the glowing vein-like pathways, passing through one node after another. These vein-like pathways crisscrossed, leading to the various light orb dimensions. Just as the two were flying, I failed again. Damn it! A rather angry voice rang out as an azure-robed figure flew out of a light orb dimension, a cold look on his face. Clearly, he had come out empty-handed and was very disappointed. Dongbo Shui-ing and Supreme Vast Ancient, who had been flying, were both startled. They turned to look. The azure-robed figure seemed to sense something as well, and he turned to look as well. Their gazes intersected. Supreme Vast Ancient, Monarch Feishue? The azure-robed figure was stunned at this moment. Great Emperor North River? Dongbo Shui-ing was slightly stunned too. Chapter 1276. Even though Great Emperor North River had entered the Forbidden Ground Snake Tooth Corridor for more than 200 billion years, there were still many places within the Snake Tooth Corridor that were extremely safe. For instance, there were many nodes within the corridor that the violent gales could not reach. Or like the light ball dimension. If Dongbo Shui-ing did not take the initiative to enter the realm fragment, he would not suffer from any attacks. Staying in such a safe place would naturally not consume any of the power of the snake-tooth bead, thousand-eyed water droplet. He could cultivate for as long as he wanted. Supreme Vast Ancient and Imperial Monarch Feishue? How could it be so coincidental for me to meet the two of them? Great Emperor North River felt his heart trembling. He even subconsciously thought that it was Monarch Feishue who came to take revenge. After all, seizing a precious treasure like the thousand-eyed water droplet was enough to make a Great Emperor realm expert fight to the death for it. But then he rejected the idea. Autarch Vast Ancient and Imperial Emperor Feishue needed 2 supreme treasures to enter. It would not be because of a little hatred. I didn't expect Sovereign Zun and Monarch Feishua to come to the Broken Teeth Mountain Range as well. What a coincidence to bump into them. Great Emperor North River revealed a grin. He chuckled, Monarch Feishua, I am truly ashamed of what happened previously. I was too eager to seek for treasures. Moreover, you promised to give me the thousand-eyed water droplet in the end. I'm just getting it ahead of time. Even though I've destroyed one of your clones, you have countless clones, so you won't suffer any losses at all. Humph. Dongbua Shui Ying's expression sunk. He stared at the distant Great Emperor North River who stood on top of the channel emitting light. When Great Emperor North River saw this, he immediately added, I know that breaking the agreement has angered Monarch Feishua, and I've made amends too. As long as the Imperial Monarch doesn't mind, I have a supreme secret treasure here that I'm willing to give to the Imperial Monarch. Please don't be angry. Dongbua Shui Ying did not have any favorable impression of this Great Emperor North River. Back then, he had agreed to help because he didn't want to see a large number of native worlds go through a calamity. Great Emperor North River had already promised Shui Ying many benefits for helping him acquire the black leaf flowery dew. Yet in the end, Shui Ying did not give him anything. Instead, Great Emperor North River destroyed his avatar. Dongbua Shui Ying had long seen through him. This northern river was too ruthless. For the sake of his own path, he would do anything. Emperor Feishua. The nearby autarch, vast ancient laughed. North River bullied you to such an extent. Now that we've run into him here, it's our destiny to destroy him. If you don't object, how about we deal with him? Supreme. Great Emperor North River's expression changed drastically. He exclaimed, Why must Supreme force me like this? Dongbua Shui Ying was also taken aback. Eliminate Great Emperor North River? The three of them all had the power of the snake-tooth bead, thousand-eyed water droplet, to protect themselves, but this did not mean that they were invincible. This was because this protective energy was only activated due to the influence of the entire forbidden area, so it could only be used to protect one's body. It couldn't be used to attack. If he could attack, he would have easily obtained the black dagger in the orb of light space. Because he couldn't attack, the power of the snake-tooth bead, thousand-eyed water droplet, was like a heaven-defying armor on the surface of his body. No matter how heaven-defying the defense of the armor was, once they were hit, they would still be sent flying. Hence, when Dongbua Shui Ying and the others were sucked into the dark maelstrom, they could not stabilize their bodies and were sucked into the snake-tooth corridor. In other words, the moment Dongbua Shui Ying, Supreme Vast Ancient, and Great Emperor North River fought, they would similarly be sent flying. If Supreme Vast Ancient fought Great Emperor North River one-on-one, even though Great Emperor North River would be at a disadvantage, he could still barely control the situation. But the moment Dongbua Shui Ying unleashed his soul technique, that protective black light could no longer protect his soul. As a result, Great Emperor North River's combat strength would be greatly reduced. The gap between them would be like the gap between a god general and a supreme. With such a huge gap, it was a one-sided trampling. Most likely, he would be blasted into nothingness by the side in just one or two moves. One had to know that they were flying along the corridor. Why? Because there were many regions outside the corridor where the gale was blowing. Hence, the energy consumption of the snake-tooth bead, thousand-eyed water droplet, was greater. Furthermore, the gap in strength was too huge. Supreme Vast Ancient could easily capture Great Emperor North River alive before sending him to some dangerous locations. That way, the energy of the thousand-eyed water droplet in his body would be depleted. When the energy was exhausted, it would also be the time of Great Emperor North River's death. Supreme. Dongbua Shui Ying felt startled in his heart. Supreme Vast Ancient was not willing to waste a single bit of energy the moment he entered the snake-tooth corridor. And now, he was willing to waste his energy to deal with North River? How could he understand? Firstly, Supreme Vast Ancient knew that Great Emperor North River had always been arrogant in the past. The reason why he gathered the 36 god generals was because he wanted to compete with the Supremes for resources. Supreme Vast Ancient was already unhappy about it. Even though he could suppress Great Emperor North River, he could not resolve the issue. This time, with the help of Dongbua Shuiying, it was much easier for him to resolve the issue. Secondly, he had already obtained that fiery red feather. This time, his harvest in the Snake-Tooth Corridor was sufficiently huge. Supreme Vast Ancient did not mind consuming some energy from the Snake-Tooth bead. Furthermore, Supreme Vast Ancient wanted to make use of this opportunity to show his favor to Dongbua Shuiying so that Dongbua Shuiying would work harder for him in the future. Monarch Feishue, should we act? Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled. Dongbua Shuiying no longer hesitated when he saw that. All right, Supreme. Many thanks. So. Supreme Vast Ancient and Dongbua Shuiying both turned into streams of light at the same time. They charged towards the distant Great Emperor North River. How ruthless! Vast Ancient, you're planning to rely on Monarch Feishue to get rid of me, right? Great Emperor North River gritted his teeth. He followed along the meridian pathway and fled in another direction. Nonetheless, Supreme Vast Ancient brought along Dongbua Shuiying. Hence, his flying speed was clearly much faster. So, one was chasing and the other was escaping. Even though there was a relatively long distance between them, it was clear that the distance was getting shorter. I can't care anymore. Great Emperor North River looked behind him. He rapidly passed through the nodes of the meridian pathway and entered a fork in the path toward the light ball dimension. Escaping into the light ball dimension? Dongbua Shuiying felt puzzled. Escaping into it would lead to a dead end. Amen? Unless... Supreme Vast Ancient squinted his eyes. So. Great Emperor North River did not hesitate to rush into that light ball dimension. Dongbua Shuiying and Supreme Vast Ancient followed closely behind. Dongbua Shuiying was startled at the moment he entered. This light ball is huge. It should be the biggest in the entire consciousness, yet it doesn't feel any pressure at all. Ooh. After penetrating through the membrane wall of the light ball dimension, they arrived at the internal space. Dongbua Shuiying could not help but widen his eyes the moment he entered. He could not help but gape. Even with his current experience, he was completely stunned. This was practically the most shocking scene he had ever seen since he was born. This. Dongbua Shuiying watched in a daze. Standing in the void of the inner space, with a glance, he could see the surrounding membrane walls emitting a strange rhythm. Through these membrane walls, he could actually see the Broken Tooth mountain range outside the Snake-Tooth Corridor. Furthermore, the Broken Tooth mountain range he saw from this light ball dimension was entirely different from the past. An incomparably huge, meandering snake appeared in his vision. This place within the Snake-Tooth Corridor Forbidden Ground was the head of the snake. The serpent's body was faintly discernible as it meandered through the entire Broken Teeth mountain range. The native worlds were actually spaces that were born from the faintly discernible body of the giant serpent. Each of these worlds relied on the giant serpent's corpse to exist. On the other side, that similarly towering thousand-eyed existence had dozens of claws, and its body was covered with thousands of eyes. The entire corpse was faintly discernible, yet it was nearly complete. Those sky-floating islands were part of this huge being's body. Just like those gray eyes and golden eyes, they corresponded to different positions on the corpse. Every strange tree had a mysterious eye at the top. In reality, those strange trees were actually tiny veins within the huge corpse. Trying to pluck the mysterious eyes from an almost complete corpse was equivalent to plucking away the eyes within the corpse. It was too difficult to destroy the corpse of such a terrifying existence. Naturally, not a single eye could be brought away. There were many mysterious items on these sky-floating islands that would cause one to suffer from a terrifying suppression just by touching them. It actually, the entire Broken Tooth mountain range is actually formed from the corpses of two terrifying, chaotic origin life forms. Dongbua Shuiying was incomparably startled. Many sky-floating islands were formed on the corpse of the thousand-eyed creature, and many native worlds were formed on the body of that huge snake. No wonder he felt a terrifying suppression the moment he stepped on the sky-floating islands. Even the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique was useless. One had to know that this technique could be executed in the chaotic origin dimension, yet could not be executed on the sky-floating islands. Clearly, it had been suppressed by the remnant energy left behind by the corpse of the thousand-eyed creature. Many experts from various races are searching for the two strongest corpses of chaotic origin life forms in the legends. You cultivators should be searching for them too. But practically none of you know that the entire Broken Tooth Mountain range is formed from these two corpses. We're always on top of these corpses. Even though Supreme Vast Ancient had seen this scene more than once, he was still mesmerized by it. And the distant Great Emperor North River did not care about the beautiful scenery. He had already seen it. Instead, he was looking at Dongbua, Shui, Ying, and Supreme Vast Ancient warily. Chapter 1277. Dongbua, Shui, Ying originally had many perplexities about the Broken Tooth Mountain range. For instance, it was like many sky-floating islands and had many vile environments. For instance, there was a lump of fog with a strong corrosive power that could kill unparalleled existences. Its threat was much stronger than that of great emperors. There were many similar environmental threats. Instead, unparalleled existences could still fight against the Death Destruction clan's emperor on an island and survive. But the environment was so vile. It was slightly unfathomable. Because the realm Heart Great Land was created by Yuan, and the overall environment was relatively safe. According to the legends, the Broken Tooth Mountain range was created by Yuan. Even if it was a trial, why did he create so many vile environments that were so strong? The price to create such a dangerous environment was not small. In reality, those environments did not serve as a trial. Instead, it depended on luck and experience. For instance, sending avatars to die to accumulate experience. That was not helpful to the trial of strength. Why did Yuan spend a huge price to create such an environment without any trial at all? In the legends, there were many dangers in the Broken Tooth Mountain range that were teleported over by Yuan from other places. Regardless, there were many explanations. But thinking about it carefully, there are still some contradictions. So it seems. So it is formed from two corpses. Dongbua Shuiying understood. That's right too. These two terrifying chaotic origin existences are huge. A single corpse is roughly 1/10 the size of an ordinary origin world. With such huge corpses, it is only natural for two of them to form the vast Broken Tooth Mountain range. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. The corpses were 1/10 the size of an ordinary origin world. In reality, the length was even more exaggerated. For instance, the huge serpent had a body longer than an origin world. Its corpse was meandering. Even so, it covered the entire Broken Tooth Mountain range. But these two corpses should have been executed by Yuan. Dongbua Shuiying thought. For instance, the Snake Tooth Corridor. For instance, the Broken Tooth Mountain range and Realm Heart Great Land had set down a rule that those who reached a certain level could not enter the Realm Heart Great Land. The Thousand-Eyed Water Droplet and Snake Tooth Bead were two supreme treasures that could only be activated after entering the Snake Tooth Corridor. Naturally, it was easy for the two corpses to evolve a world and set down rules. Powerful. What a powerful technique, Shuiying said. He finally understood how an existence like Yuan could create a vast world. Yuan is naturally formidable. Even according to some legends that we have heard, he is an apex chaotic origin expert. Autark Vast Ancient let out a sigh as well. Even if we were lucky enough to undergo an ultimate awakening and become part of our ancestral clans, we would still be newborns despite how powerful our clans are. In order to reach the level of strength of these two corpses, I'm afraid he would have to go through many difficulties. Even if he had such strength in the end, he would still be inferior to Yuan. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. For the sake of the younger generation, Yuan had left behind two terrifying corpses and created the Broken Teeth Mountain range. It was likely that these two were not the only terrifying chaotic origin life forms that died in the hands of Yuan. As Dongbua Shui Ying and Supreme Vast Ancient conversed, they did not care about Great Emperor North River, who was not too far away. Vast Ancient, are you really not going to give me a way out? Great Emperor North River said. Dongbua Shui Ying turned to Great Emperor North River. He felt puzzled inwardly. This lightball dimension was also a dangerous place. Even though there were several strange treasures here, there was no place to escape to. Yet this Great Emperor North River seemed to have something he could rely on. North River, you're too ruthless in doing things. For the sake of achieving your goals, you are unscrupulous. Supreme Vast Ancient said, even the 5 Supremes are merely opponents in your eyes. I admit that your strength isn't too far away from ours. You even gathered 36 God Generals. The Supremes are too lazy to fight for you. Yet you have offended Monarch Feishue. That is a huge mistake. Monarch Feishue has a huge influence on the battlefield. He is more useful than a large group of God Generals. Today, even if 2 Supremes work together, it would be hard for them to eliminate you. But with Monarch Feishue around, eliminating you is much easier. Great Emperor North River's expression was cold, right? Even against 2 Supremes, he was confident of escaping. But Dongbua Shui Ying would greatly reduce his strength to the God General level. Fighting against the Supremes at the God General level, that was truly seeking death. I originally wanted to properly cultivate here and grab hold of the opportunity to step into the Supreme level. Great Emperor North River said solemnly. But who would have thought that while I was conserving the energy of the thousand-eyed water droplet, the 2 of you came? When did it become so easy to obtain supreme treasures? North River, I originally wanted to comprehend the thousand-eyed water droplet without consuming any energy. By then, I would naturally give it to you. I've already sworn an oath. Do you think I would rather break off my path of cultivation and fall out with you? Dongbua Shui Ying said, you don't want to give others a way out, and now, you have no way out either. I believe you will not violate the oath. But once the news of the thousand-eyed water droplet spreads, even the Supremes would covet it. Who knows what would happen? Great Emperor North River said, even if you and I work together, we can't stop the Supremes. Dongbua Shui Ying said, as time passes, who knows what would happen? It is better for me to obtain it earlier and enter the Snake-Tooth Corridor. Great Emperor North River sneered. Supreme Vast Ancient added from the side. If you did not fall out with Feishue, not only would you get this droplet, you might even have the chance to get a second one in the future. I, North River, am already satisfied with a single supreme treasure at the Great Emperor level. I have never dared to dream of getting a second one. Great Emperor North River nonchalantly said, furthermore, given the personality of Monarch Flying Snow, I believe he disliked people like me from the start. If not for me wanting to conquer many worlds in the past, I wouldn't have done so. If not for those ants, this Monarch Feishue would not have helped me. Have you decided? Supreme Vast Ancient suddenly said. Dongbua Shui Ying felt slightly puzzled. Decided? Decided what? You all aren't giving me a way out? Do I have a choice? Great Emperor North River sneered. Humph. All 5 of you Great Supremes are too afraid to gamble. You have been holing up in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range. That's fine too. Let me go. Who knows, I might even reach the ultimate awakening before all of you. Great Emperor North River then turned to Dongbua Shui Ying, grinning. Monarch Feishue, you are the strongest expert in the Tao of Soul in the history of the Realm Heart Great Land Broken Tooth Mountain Range. You have helped me greatly, yet you have left me with no path of retreat. Haha, that's fine too. This is also my style of doing things. Not giving myself a path of retreat. Haha. The next time we meet, I might have become a chaotic origin life form. Ha! The moment he finished speaking, Great Emperor North River directly charged toward a piece of black rock by the side. Gudong. Ripples formed on the surface of the black rock. Great Emperor North River charged into it before disappearing from the vicinity. What? Dongbua Shui Ying was startled. Great Emperor North River did not choose to escape to other places. Instead, he chose to escape into this light ball dimension that seemed to be a dead end. After arriving here, Supreme Vast Ancient did not continue acting. Great Emperor North River seemed to have something to rely on. Everything was clear now, so he could rely on the huge black rock by his side to escape. What is this huge black rock? Donghua Shui Ying asked. You will know once you thoroughly sense it. Supreme Vast Ancient said. This is a path Yuan left behind for us, and also another path for you cultivators of the Great Land. This is the largest light ball dimension within your consciousness. You can see the true side of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range from here. At the same time, there's a passage here that could lead you out of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range and out of the Realm Heart Great Land to a slightly more unique territory in the Chaotic Origin Dimension. Supreme Vast Ancient was still sighing. His eyes were filled with envy and expectation. Donghua Shuiying had already walked to the front of the huge black rock. He sent a strand of his consciousness in. Since you can't advance any further, then go to other civilizations. Temper yourself under different civilizations and compete with experts from different civilizations. Grasp that tiny bit of eternity in the Tao and jump out of the cage. Jump out of the restraints of countless civilizations and become a magnificent chaotic origin life form. A grand voice reverberated in his consciousness. At that moment, Donghua Shuiying was enlightened. This voice should be Yuan, and this was the final path that the experts of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range in Realm Heart Great Land could choose after failing to break through the Snake Tooth Corridor. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.